Welcome to the Vault. This commentary is pertaining to Lori Vallow Daybell. She now says she has an alibi for the night that her children disappeared and were murdered. I will bring you a bio on the said female, commentary from her brother, information from her other decedent brother, Alex Cox, from his wife. She will give you commentary that she gave to detectives pertaining to odd conversations she had with her husband before death. I will also bring you commentary pertaining to what Lori now says, or where she was rather, when the children went missing and were murdered. Thank you for joining me. Lori Vallow is the new wife of Chad Daybell. She was born June 26, 1973, in San Bernardino, California, United States. Lori Vallow was arrested by the Kauai Police Department in Princeville, Hawaii, on February 20th, 2020. Charged with 2 felony counts of desertion and non-support of dependent children by Madison County prosecutors. Lori Noreen Daybell, also known as Lori Vallow Daybell, was born in San Bernardino, California, in a Catholic family, June 26, 1973, married her high school sweetheart, Nelson Yanes, in 1992 when she was 19 years old. However, the marriage was short-lived. On October 22, 1995, at the age of 22, she married William Legioa, a 23-year-old Travis County, Texas. He was from Travis County, Texas, excuse me. She and Legioa married in 1996 and had a son, Colby, before divorcing on February 25th, 1998. As far as her educational qualifications are concerned, she is a graduate, having a bachelor's degree, and had completed her schooling from a local high school. Lori Vallow is currently serving a life sentence for murder, according to information acquired in 2021, which that makes no sense because she hasn't gone to trial, is my understanding. But anyway, this is what they have in the Wikipedia Wiko bio. On February 20th, 2020, she was arrested in Kauai, charging her children of abandonment and non-support. She was extradited to Idaho and arrived on March 5th, 2020. On June 9th, 2020, the police executed a search warrant at Chad Daybell's home in order to discover JJ and Tylee's human remains. On March 25th, 2021, Vallow and Daybell were charged with first-degree murders of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. Lori married Joseph Anthony Ryan Jr. in 2001. Ryan formally adopted Colby before Tylee, the couple's first child, was born in 2002. On August 13, 2004, Ryan filed for divorce, which was completed May 18, 2005. Lori Ryan married Charles Vallow, born August 17, 1956, in Calcasieu, Louisiana. He died July 11, 2019, in Chandler, Arizona, who had converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on February 24, 2006, in Las Vegas, 282 days after her last divorce. Nicholas Vallow and Zachary Chase Vallow are the sons of Charles Vallow and his former wife, Cheryl Wheeler. Joshua Jackson, J.J. Vallow, Vallow's grandson, was adopted by the couple in 2013. Lori said in February 2019 that she no longer cared about him or JJ and that she was Joseph Smith's reincarnated wife before disappearing for 58 days, according to Charles Vallow. Charles Vallow filed for divorce the same month, alleging that his wife had threatened to murder him, stolen $35,000 from their shared bank accounts, and stolen his truck. 1 month later, in March 2019, Charles Vallow withdrew the petition, saying he wanted to try to make the marriage work. Lori Vallow could be indicted in the killing of her ex-husband. Charles Vallow, according to an email issued by Arizona police in March 2020. On October 2nd, 2019, 17 days before Chad Daybell's first wife, Tammy, died of mysterious reasons, supposedly in her sleep. A wedding ring was ordered on Amazon from the deceased Charles Vallow's account for $35.99. The county coroner did not overturn her husband's decision to refuse a post-mortem or autopsy. Lori Vallow used her late husband's Amazon account to purchase the ring. Here is the full bio of Lori, her family, mother, father, name, age, ethnicity, religion, and other said information. Lori Noreen Vallow, female, 46, born February 15th. I've got this 1972. It's us, 1973. Caucasian. Co-founder of Dancing Studios, former dancer was her profession. Christian. Currently married. Children, Colby Ryan, Joshua Vallow, Tylee Ryan. Husband, Chad Daybell, 2019. Charles Vallow, 2006 to 2019. Joseph Anthony Ryan, 2001 to 05. And William Gioa, 1995-98. Her net worth is estimated at $400,000. Don't know how true that is. Just some little known facts. Tylee Ryan and her mother, Lori Vallow, raved about each other on Instagram in the years leading up to Lori Vallow's arrest for her daughter's abduction. Tylee's Instagram photos show her laughing, smiling with Lori, whom she described as the perfect example of how I want to be as a mother someday. Lori expressed similar feelings for Tylee on Instagram, wishing her a happy birthday every year and applauding her development into a beautiful young woman. Posters were discovered 6 weeks after Tylee and her brother Joshua, J.J. Daybell, buried on Lori's current husband, Chad Daybell's backyard. Lori and Chad also facing felony counts of evidence destruction in the case, which began after the children went missing in September. This is a very wicked case of a woman who obviously was mentally ill, because my understanding from watching Sins of Our Mother, Netflix, son's rendition of his mother, that she was unraveling before she even met Chad Daybell. Some would consider her a religious fanatic. Mother speaks of her talking about the Lord and growing up in the church early on. Obviously, that's how she was raised. But somewhere down the road, I think she was searching for something after finding out one of her husbands were molesting her boy child. So perhaps she was trying to get more out of life. But you see, she was spiraling downward, husband after husband, trying to play catch up, I believe. And you will hear that from one of the friends, Miss Gibb, that's what she felt the Vallow husband was trying to do, play catch up. But you can't play catch up with somebody who's, one, mentally ill. Nothing you do will ever be good enough. And if their mind is unraveling and they are mentally ill and they're hearing and seeing things and using the church and God as a crutch for imaginary conversations and ideologies, you're doomed. And that's what happened in this storyline. The husband was doomed. The kids were doomed. She was doomed. Mr. Daybell was doomed. And if you look at the story, it's obvious that all these people were mentally ill And these other people are just side pieces, pawns in this game. See, one thing leads to another when people are not well. And the devil knows how to send in the enemy, because I believe she was already mentally gone. So then here comes Mr. Daybell with his ideologies, and she's falling prey to it because she's already empty. Now, she knew what she was doing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying she did not know what she was doing. Oh, of course she did. But I believe in the end, all this knocking off wives and children was just so these two could be together, baggage free. She had let the enemy take over her mind, so she wants to knock off her husband. Then she's sleeping around with this man. He's gotten rid of his wife. Next thing you know, now her kids are gone. So it's obvious. It was stair step. Because the point is, these people would have done this with whomever. Your mind is fragile. You'll just go out and knock off your kids, family members. There's something wrong with you. And conspiring to kill people, that means you're sick. That has nothing to do with Jesus. And none of them can say that they're Christians, because no Christian will go out here and murder their own wife or husband just so they could be with somebody else. Then just leave. Why do you have to kill them? And if she didn't want to take care of the little boy, she could have sent him back with the relatives and said, I no longer want to take care of him. But see, people don't want to be shamed. You want to be a killer versus saying, hey, I don't want to take care of this kid anymore. Same thing with the daughter. She was 2 years shy of being an adult. So it didn't even make any sense to be killing these kids. Killing the husband. I will now bring you commentary pertaining to the Alibi. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BeganG129, Cash App. All stickers and chats are welcome during this live stream. Thank you for your time. You're now listening to The Vault. And also, I want to bring you information. I want to send out prayers to the Presley family. Lisa Marie Presley has passed away at the age of 54. The late daughter of the late Elvis Presley. She went into cardiac arrest and later died at the hospital. Prayers for her family. And prayers also for Mr. Hamlin, who has been released from the hospital, played for the Buffalo Bills. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me. Also, pertaining to Leilani Simon, her attorneys has filed a motion for paperwork from DHS as far as getting information pertaining to past abuse, if it will affect her having a fair trial. That's the latest information coming out of Savannah, Georgia. Thank you for joining me. Weekend movie, How to Murder Your Husband, the Nancy Brophy story, now playing on Lifetime. Thank you. Also, my other movie of the week is a series airing on Netflix, The Times Square Killer. Very interesting information. Please check out that information. I've got so much to bring you. If I can find everything. Hold on one second. Thank you all for tuning in to this information. All updates to current stories and old are posted to my community board. Trying to find my content. Thank you, Hippie. Thank you so much. I try to find something interesting for you all to watch. Trying to find my content for Miss Daybell. I had something else pulled up. Now I can't find it. Hold on one second. Here it is. Okay. 1 second. Doomsday Cult Mom. Lori Vallow claims alibi proves innocence in children's murders. Lori Vallow claims that she was somewhere else when her children were murdered in their uncle's apartment. The accused murderer's attorneys also say they do not intend on using her mental health as a defense. Well, what is her mental health exactly? Has she been diagnosed with some type of disorder? Because I haven't heard if she has. I have not followed this story all the way to the end of where we are now because it has too many, as I told people a few years ago, too many moving parts. When you start talking about different people dying and dying under suspicious circumstances and different husbands, I easily bore because it's too many names for me to keep up with. It's nothing personal, but I was never turned on by all of the shenanigans pertaining to Lori Vallow because it was just too many husbands, too many people dead, and it turned me off, all that. But I'm bringing you this update because it is the latest information in the lies that this woman is trying to spin, and once again, implicating this Gibb lady after this lady has specifically told her how she felt about her, implicating that her son was with her when the son wasn't, and it's on a recorded call. So I find it interesting. She's still now, years later, implicating this lady that she was in her company. So it's like, why do you keep implicating someone who's already told you they didn't appreciate you saying that the son was with her and he wasn't? This just shows you this bitch, she don't care. That's why anybody could see you are all the way involved in the deaths of these children. Because to continuously keep bringing up somebody's name in a crime after they've already told you they didn't have your child and you knew they didn't have your child, and why would you lie on them and tell the police that your son was with them? And yet now, years later, you're still putting their name in your mouth as an alibi. It's this lady's vow.
Now to Idaho, where accused doomsday cult mom Lori Vallow Daybell submitted an alibi denying that she murdered her 2 children. Vallow Daybell claims she was somewhere else when they were killed in her brother's apartment. Now she is due to go on trial in Idaho in April for the murders of her children, JJ and Tylee, who went missing in 2019. Now her attorneys say Daybell Vallow is innocent of killing her children and should not be facing the death penalty. Court records also show her lawyers asked the court to allow her to communicate with her husband, Chad Daybell, who also faces conspiracy to commit murder charges without being recorded. Now, criminal defense attorney Kesia Early and Brian Silver are here with me this hour, and we're going to talk about this now, Kesia. What do you make of this submitted alibi claiming that Vallow Daybell was somewhere else when her children were murdered?
Well, it's a defense, but I don't think that it's strong enough because, of course, the prosecution is going to point to her actions after her children went missing. I mean, she traveled, She did not have any sense of remorse or any sense of urgency to locate her missing children. So although she submitted this alibi, I don't think that it's strong enough. And also, it's been reported that the defense in this case will not utilize her mental state as a defense. And I believe that they're not utilizing it because they can't. I mean, when you're suffering from a mental illness, you have to undergo a mental evaluation. And I do believe that that mental evaluation was not beneficial to the defense, which is why they opted not to go that route. But I don't believe that this alibi, although it may have been submitted.
They can't use it because there's nothing wrong with her. How about that? How about there's nothing wrong with Miss Vallow Daybell? There's nothing wrong with her. So there's nothing you can use if psychiatrists can't find anything legally, mentally wrong with you. Thank you for joining me. This is The Vote.
I don't think it's sufficient, and it's just too much what happened after children went missing, and that it's going to be an uphill battle for the defense.
Certainly could be a Hail Mary by the defense there. Now, Brian, how do you feel about Lori Vallow Daybell wanting to communicate with her husband, Chad Daybell? Is that unusual to you?
Well, it depends on the circumstances, but talking about that alibi just for a second, there's something very important that I think we need to pay attention to. This means she's probably going to testify. Very few instances of alibi defense are you able to rely on another witness. I guess someone could say they were with you, but I expect she'll probably take the stand to say she was wherever she was. And that's going to open the door to the question you just asked me about the communication with the husband, about where she was. It could end up, really backfiring for her if she isn't prepared and doesn't have the right answers.
Well, Casey, there's certainly always a danger when she is going to testify, isn't there?
There's always a danger when any defendant testifies, no matter how you prep your client, how long you prep your client, what you tell them what to say, what not to testify to. Once they get on the stand and direct examination is completed, then the prosecution gets up and conducts their cross-examination. And oftentimes, although the defendant believes that they can handle pressure, they'll know how to explain themselves, it's always up to the jury. They're analyzing every response, every hand motion, body expression, facial expression. So it can either hurt the defendant or it can explain and help the defendant in this case. But if she goes up there and testifies, she's going to be subject to cross-examination. And I do suspect and believe that the prosecution will answer, specific details, especially what she did after her children went missing.
Well, Brian, what can we expect, of this trial in a few months? Do you think Vallow Daybell will be offered a plea by then?
No, I don't think she will. And the reason is you have two children victims. This is a major, major prosecution. Anytime where you have a parental homicide of children, it takes a different tone. This is not your run-of-the-mill murder case, so to speak. And unless they have an evidentiary problem that maybe we're not aware of, witnesses unable to testify or something happened, I don't expect there'll be a plea offer. This is something where the prosecution wants to go all the way with.
And Keisha, when we talk about Vallow Daybell, when we see her demeanor is very interesting. She doesn't seem like she's sorry. She doesn't feel like she's done anything.
Exactly.
How is that going to be viewed?
Well, it depends. She's unpredictable. One moment she's stoic, and then
I'm Cassie Parsons, and I'm one of the
Oops, sorry about that brief intermission.
She's blowing kisses. So I'm concerned, again, if she testifies, no matter how well the defense attorney prepares her, she may go off the radar. But there may be a possibility that the prosecution may, offer a plea in exchange from Lori, now that they have this notice of alibi, to testify against her husband. So we don't know at this moment. It depends. Maybe her testimony can strengthen the prosecution's case, and they will want her to testify in exchange for that. So it's possible that they may present a plea offer, but typically they do it well in advance of trial.
And Brian, when you talk about...
When you watch this video, I will share it to my community board, Doomsday Cult Lori Vallow claims alibi proves innocence. She's sitting in between her attorneys. She was sitting kind of close to one. I think maybe she realized that wasn't a good idea, wasn't a good look in the courtroom, so she scoots her chair back over. She got her hair pulled up in the middle like a schoolgirl, wearing, regular clothes in court naturally. Just putting on. She doesn't have any remorse. Smiling, giddy, pushing forward in the chair like she's uncertain of where she is. Just smiling. And it's like, don't you realize this is serious? You're in a court of law being accused of murders, destroying evidence. And you're sitting here giddy, but this lets you know she doesn't care. So one would have to wonder, all those years that she was pretending to be a doting parent, wife, loving wife, this Miss Texas pageant she entered, speaking in front of audience for this and that perhaps she was a fraud all along, and this was going to be the inevitable, because I don't believe you just wake up and start killing people. You have to have something already deep-seated in you. And like I said, we all can be mean, vindictive, revengeful, sly, slick. But when does it cross over to murder? That's the point. When does the deviant, vile behavior push you to take a life? That is the point. So was she this way all along and nobody knew it? And one thing begat another, and she meets this Chad guy, and now she's so smitten with this thing that she can't see the forest for the trees. Because I can't put everything on Chad now, knowing she was becoming what I call a religious fanatic. She was already spiraling before she met Chad. That is what the son said and other people said about her disposition. So she was already spiraling out of control in her own life and her own marriage. So she was good for nobody, no kids, no husband, whether he was cheating or not. She was spinning out of control. Let's finish this commentary. Law and Crime Network is the source.
Talk about her husband, Chad Daybell. How key is he going to be in this case?
Well, it's yet to be seen. We need to see how the testimony unfolds. Her alleged alibi puts a whole new spin on this case. And, certainly if she testifies, it's going to make a big difference. But really, it's too early to call these things. We need to see how the trial unfolds, especially how maybe the prosecution will alter its strategy based on the fact that they're going to have to fight against an alibi witness, or an alibi defense, I should say.
Casey, how do you defend a client like Vallow Daybell?
Again, you poke holes in the state's case because you remind the jury that it's the state's burden alone. And then everything that the state brings out, you can definitely weaken that and show it to the jury. In this instance, with this alibi that she presented, is it cell phone data that she's presented that shows that she was somewhere else? Or is it eyewitness testimony who can testify under oath and also be credible to the jury that, hey, she was with me all night, she wasn't there? I mean, if it's cell phone data, then that's typically weak because someone could have their cell phone at one location and be at another location. But again, you attack the state's case in chief and you do it throughout trial. And this is where good cross-examination comes in with the state's witnesses. So I do suspect that the state will call their star witness before and a strong witness at the very end, and you continue to attack their credibility. Because again, the jury has to make the determination what's the truth, what's the lie, and also what was the true motive to killing these beautiful children.
On the other side, Brian, if you're the prosecutor, how would you try the case?
So my approach as a prosecutor was always to be a tour guide. I don't like when prosecutors get up and they scream and yell. I feel like it's just an act, and juries can oftentimes see through that. A good prosecutor is doing nothing more than looking at a jury and saying, hey, we charged this guy with such and such crime, and here's the reasons why. this is the evidence we have. This witness told us X. We found this piece of evidence at the crime scene, this, that, and the other. And they're basically putting their hand on display. So I think if they take a very matter-of-fact approach, they'll have the greatest chances of success. And that's how I would try the case as a prosecutor.
Well, Casey, before we go, I do want to ask about the competency of her right now, because she was found not competent to stand trial, but then in the summer, she was found competent to stand trial.
And that's the purpose for re-evaluation. Typically, when you're initially evaluated, you may be found incompetent to proceed. And there's a program or medication that's administered, and then you're re-evaluated. So most likely, obviously, her competency has been restored. She's fit to stand trial. And
Lordy.
that report was administered by a licensed clinician, psychologist, who was able to evaluate her. And based on that evaluation, they made that determination that she is competent. We don't know what medications she was on, what type of therapy she received, but we know she received the proper treatment and she's ready to stand trial.
All right, guys. Well, I want to thank you both so much for your analysis. Great job as always. That'll do it for us. I'm Michelle.
All right, everybody. That is the Said Content Law and Crime Network. We'll post this to my community board. Please check out the said information. Very interesting. Attorneys will not be using mental state as a defense. As I said, 9 times out of 10, there's nothing wrong with her, and they don't have anything on record to say there's something wrong with her. I don't know why it's taking this long for somebody to say she's fit to stand trial. She's the same person she was when she first got arrested. What's changed? All the giddiness, the laughing, the smiling, the rocking back and forth, like you said here in this commentary, blowing kisses at people. Who does that if they're on trial for murder? Stupid behavior. Stupid, ignorant behavior. And some people might look at her and just say, well, there must be something wrong with her. Look how she's acting. She's smiling and giddy and blowing kisses. Maybe she really doesn't know what she's done. You know what you're doing. Whenever you're jumping from place to place, men to men, jumping on airplanes to fly here and there, Hawaii, you have to book all those things. You're lucid. Because crazy people don't have the fortitude to do all those things. That stuff sane people do. The act of what they did was illogical, crazy, inhuman. But they're sane. She's sane. It's the bottom line. There's nothing wrong with her. Who is she going to tell? Who is she going to say is her alibi now? I don't even know how that's going to work because they're going to refute it. And why continuously keep building bad blood with people? You're already incarcerated. You're not coming out of there. So why keep building bad blood? And I don't think she's going to survive cross-examination on the witness stand if she decides to testify. You would be a fool to testify. Just because you're a known liar and you're going to trip yourself up. And the fact that when people were asking about the children, the relatives, the grandparents of JJ, your son, different brothers and people, parents, whomever, the school system, neighbors, you couldn't provide the children. So that shows right there you knew where the children were, which was that they were dead. They weren't over here at somebody's house. You weren't hiding them out. They weren't alive. And that's going to show that you had knowledge. So it won't matter that you say, I was over here at Pookie's house, Ray Ray's house. When it was time for you to bring the children forward, and you were court mandated to bring the children forward because you wouldn't respond to families' requests for video chat and conversations with the children, visuals of the children, you couldn't do that. That's why you got arrested. That's why you got arrested. So that showed cause that there's something wrong with the kids because you could not bring them forward. And when you can't bring the children forward, people are going to suspect the worst, that possibly the children are no longer living. And as you hear in this commentary also, why did she do it? I think it's obvious. She wanted to be with this man. He rid himself of his obligations. She rid herself of her obligations. You know, you have to use deduction. What are the odds you meet a man? I believe he was married when she met him. His wife mysteriously dies in her sleep. Your husband gets killed by your brother, and then your children go missing and then later found dead on your new husband's property. And that's another thing that, how are you going to talk your way out of that? Your new husband is hoarding your children in the backyard in separate burial sites. These children didn't know him from Adam. You're the connection. Now you want to implicate a dead man, which is your brother, Alex Cox. They died in his apartment. They may have died in his apartment. But how did they get from their apartment to Daybell's property? And it will be sad and sick to know her brother conspired to kill his own nephew and niece. Because wasn't that the reason why you were conspiring with her to kill her husband? And so she could have full custody of the children. You will hear that testimony later in this live stream from his wife. So why would you kill her husband so she could get custody of her kids, but then kill her kids? And he may have killed them. I'm not saying that he didn't, but a dead man tells no tales. But it's his data from his phone, the dead brother, Alex, is what led authorities to the children in the backyard of Mr. Daybell's property. So that shows the brother was complicit. Because how would he have data leading to the property, which led authorities to dig up the yard and find the children? That means you went there. And 9 times out of 10, you took the children there to be disposed of. So that means you had access to dead kids. This is bad. And the brother obviously is not well, was not well. He's allegedly, well, he's dead, excuse me. So why would this guy kill the husband and then kill her kids? You mean to tell me you're sitting here believing this BS about 144,000 chosen ones? Well, how are you going to be chosen as a murderer in the 144,000? See, all this is BS. I don't do all that religious talk, mumbo jumbo. God talked to me. He spoke to me. We had tea at noon. Prove it. She saw Jesus. They talked to each other. They went to the mall together. Well, I haven't heard of Jesus going to the mall with anybody as of late. If that's the case, all of us need a little chit chat with Jesus. Very disturbing information. Law and Crime is the source. I will now bring you more information. Please go back to the beginning of this video to get the bio on Miss Vallow Daybell. I bring you her personal information, who she is, where she was born, family, husbands, so on and so forth. We'll now bring you more information. I did not know that there was some issues with her son because, as I said, I didn't keep up with this story too much for my head. Way too much. But let's hear from her brother, who gives commentary pertaining to his relationship with his sister. Hello, everybody in the chat. Well, somehow it doesn't want to pull up right now. Let's see. Brother Lori Vallow Daybell speaks out on their relationship, sister's murder charges. This was uploaded last year, January. Okay, here. I think they've got it playing now. Hold on one second.
In Hawaii. They are getting tan. They are on a beach in Hawaii. They are getting tan. They are walking barefoot. They are living their best life, seemingly completely oblivious to the welfare of the kids.
Lori, tell us where your kids are. Everybody wants to know. When you're seeing this play out in real time, what is that like for you as you're watching this? It was hard to watch on TV to see how she was handling the whole thing. And why in the world wouldn't you say where your kids are if something wasn't right? I had the same gut feeling in my stomach, the same way I had the same gut feeling when Charles was killed. And I thought, if she's not saying where the kids are dead.
The kids are dead. And they are dead. That's the sick part of the story. This content was uploaded January 22nd, 2022. This is her brother speaking, Adam Cox. Adam Cox has a hard time coming to grips with what has happened to his family. Our family is nothing the way it used to be. You don't know who to trust, who's saying what actually happened. Cox said in an exclusive network interview with ABC's 2020, and that commentary you heard briefly is 2020. Cox is the brother of Lori Vallow, a name made infamous around the world after she and her husband, Chad Daybell, were charged with the murders of Vallow's children, J.J. Vallow and Colby Ryan. Alex Cox, the brother of Adam Cox and Lori Vallow, was also implicated in the murders, according to the indictment. There's so much deceit, and some family members may believe one thing, and other family members may believe another thing, said Cox, referring to how Lori Vallow and Alex Cox explained events to other family members. Cox remembers his younger sister from a simpler time, growing up in Southern California as the middle of 5 siblings, teaching her how to shoot a basketball, her joining the cheer squad in 9th grade, even her brief marriage to her high school sweetheart. There was nothing odd. There was nothing alarming or something that you would think that. How could she go off and do these things, Cox said. More than 2 years ago, the nation became captivated by the story of 2 missing children and their mother, who didn't seem to be looking for them. The investigation uncovered an even darker tale, including a string of deaths of people close to Vallow and Daybell, as well as their adherence to a strange doomsday ideology. In the months leading up to the tragedies, Adam Cox began to notice an unsettling shift in his sister's behavior. He said she would tell him that she had spoken to Jesus Christ face to face and that she was a translated being who could not die. I looked at her and she looked at me and I was like, Lori, what you're saying is not true. This is nonsense, said Cox. And she goes, you think I'm crazy, don't you? From that point, she tried to cut everything off with me, Cox added. Cox said he reached out to their mother. I was like, look, Lori is saying some crazy stuff. We got to do something. And my mom was like, well, she's never said that to me. I never heard her say that, said Cox. 2020 spoke to Janice Cox a month before the bodies were found. Adam told us he was really worried about Lori and Janice Cox. He didn't specify, but he said to me, Mom, don't you think Lori has some crazy beliefs? And I said, no, I don't think Lori has crazy beliefs. She's taking care of JJ. Lori's just living a normal life. Cox did, however, find that that Vallow's estranged husband, Charles Vallow, shared his concerns about what they saw as a troubling change in her mental state. Charles Vallow had called police about Vallow's alleged threats against him. He had even filed for divorce before changing his mind and trying to reconcile. Charles Vallow and Cox planned to stage an intervention for Vallow at her Arizona home in July 2019, but the intervention never happened. A violent confrontation allegedly unfolded at Vallow's home when Charles Vallow arrived to take JJ to scoop. It ended with Alex Cox shooting and killing Charles Vallow. Alex Cox claimed to detectives that he killed Charles Vallow in self-defense while trying to protect his sister and his niece, Tylee. In the final years of their marriage, Vallow had reportedly become fascinated with Daybell, an author of religious doomsday novels. In order to be closer to Daybell, a married father of 5, Lori Vallow, J.J. Tylee, and her brother Alex Cox relocated from Arizona to Rexburg, Idaho in September of 2019. Daybell's wife, Tammy Daybell, died unexpectedly in October of 2019. So as you see, there's a timeline of this fall of 2019 of everybody dying and disappearing and also being murdered. If you follow the trail of the relationships, everybody moving out to Rexburg to be close to this man who's married, and then the next month, his wife dies unexpectedly in her sleep in October. Very peculiar. But we now see the sequence as a grand setup scheme, diabolical plan by Daybell and Lori. And also the brother, who's now deceased. Police say that the last time Tylee was seen alive was on a trip to Yellowstone National Park on September 8, 2019. JJ was last seen alive in Vallow's apartment on September 22nd, 2019, according to law enforcement. So here we have an interesting time span of from the 8th to the 12th. That's 2 weeks to the date. So perhaps JJ was murdered first, and then the daughter Tylee was murdered second. Growing desperate after months of silence from Vallow, relatives of JJ turned to the authorities for help. Police in Idaho conducted a welfare check at Vallow's home on November 26, 2019, and were given different explanations of the children's whereabouts that were determined to be false. So here we now have November 26 from September. Let's go back. Oh, sorry. I got it mixed up. Tylee was last seen on the trip on the 8th. So the girl child is last seen on the 8th at Yellowstone, September. And then JJ's last seen in the apartment with the mother, September 22nd. So it is believed, if I'm going to follow this timeline down exactly, Tylee went missing first, murdered first, and then JJ. Excuse the discrepancy. So now let's move into November. Police are now at this woman's address trying to find her children. Please, where are your kids? So that's a long time to not have children surfacing. They're not in school. The mother's giving different excuses to the school, family members, of where the children are. So really the welfare department should have been at the house in September. When nobody saw Tylee after the 8th of September, you should have sent the welfare workers, police directly. Because even at 16, she still was a child and was enrolled in school. She was not an adult. So where was she? Well, we now know where she was. Then you fast forward, the son goes missing near the end of the month. Nobody sees him after September 22nd. JJ. So this is bad. 2 weeks apart, the children end up being murdered. First Tylee, then the boy child, JJ. And there's no way near the end of November, anybody in authority just banging on a door looking for these kids. Somebody should have been looking for these kids in September. Welfare should have been at the door in September. Growing desperate after months of silence from Vallow, relatives of JJ turned to the authorities for help. As I just told you, in Idaho, police conducted this welfare check November 26th and were given different explanations of where the children were. Police returned the next day to find Vallow gone and her home vacated. Sign number 3. Number 1, the children aren't seen for months. Police go, you still don't have the children. Next day they come back. She's moved everything out of the house. Why would you move everything out of your house after the police just stopped by the day before? Stay woke. So see, all this is stair step, showing you premeditation. One child hasn't been seen after the first week of September. The next child hasn't been seen September 22nd. After that, people are calling, wanting to talk, video chat with JJ, the grandparents. You don't have no way of letting them see the child. Why? The older child, she's disappeared. Why? Where? Welfare people come the 26th of November, months later. Still no kids. And then the next day, the police return. You don't live in an apartment anymore. You have disappeared and cleared out your apartment. Who does that? Why would you clear out your house after your second visit from law enforcement because you know you are behind the disappearance of the children. So now coming forward with this alibi BS is just what it is. It's BS. You plotted the deaths of your children with this Daybell character. And when you saw the heat banging at the door, you knew you had to leave because they would come back. And that is exactly what happened. Well, I don't know anything about this Melanie Gibb. I just know about the conversation in a recorded call where she told Lori, why did you implicate me in saying he was here when he wasn't? So I would assume this Gibb person was wired. Because why am I going to record a phone call knowing I had the child or had some involvement or knowledge of the children? That would make no sense. And I don't know her personally. And on that conversation, Lori admits that she lied to the authorities about this Gibb lady having the child. It's on a recorded conversation. So if the lady has any involvement, why would she record herself knowing that she can implicate herself? That wouldn't make any sense. I'm not speaking on behalf of her. This story, I'm right now focusing on Miss Lori Vallow and her conversation about her alibi. Unbeknownst to many of the Vallow and Daybell's friends and family, they had already married earlier that month in Hawaii in an intimate beach ceremony. On December 20th, 2019, Rexburg police and the FBI issued a press release announcing JJ and Tylee were missing and in danger, and that Vallow and Daybell had fled the area, launching the story into national headlines. The newlywed couple was eventually located living on the Hawaiian island of Kauai, but they would not answer questions about the children's whereabouts. I had the same gut feeling in my stomach, the same way I had the same gut feeling when Charles was killed, said Adam Cox. And I thought, if she's not saying where the kids are dead. Eventually, a forensic examination of Alex Cox's phone led investigators to the backyard of Chad Daybell's property, where on June 9, 2020, the buried remains of JJ and Tylee were discovered. JJ's body had been wrapped in plastic and duct tape, while Tylee's remains had been dismembered and burned. Wow, how cruel. So I guess they couldn't get a manner of death. This is horrible. I know I went into shock again and thought, why in the world would they kill the kids and then bury them on Chad's property, said Adam Cox. It's heart-wrenching. It's an emotional disaster. You get a sick feeling in your stomach that it could even happen. Vallow is now charged in connection to 4 deaths in 2 states. Vallow's children, her husband, Charles Vallow, and Daybell's former wife, Tammy Daybell. So she's being charged with the death of her husband, Charles Vallow, and Daybell's former wife, Tammy Daybell. Daybell was also indicted in connection with the death of Vallow's children, along with other charges that include conspiracy to commit murder and the death of his wife, and also on 1 count of first-degree murder in her death. Investigators believe that Alex Cox, who was determined to have died from natural causes in December of 2019, played a role in all of the killings. Adam Cox is still struggling to make sense of everything that has unfolded. Whatever plan they had, I really believe they thought they were going to get away with it, he said. Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell's trials are both scheduled for 2023 in Idaho. Daybell has pleaded not guilty, while Vallow has been deemed incompetent to stand trial and is receiving treatment at a mental health facility. She has not entered a plea. This is an older article from January of 2022. As most of you know, Vallow has been deemed fit to stand trial, and she will stand trial for these murders. Adam Cox said he cannot even begin to fathom what justice looks like for JJ and Tylee. Jail for the rest of their life is not good enough. Death isn't good enough, said Adam Cox. If you think about what those kids went through, is there anything that could bring justice to what happened to the kids? ABC 7 Chicago is the source. This is a year-old article from 2022, January. This is pertaining to Adam, surviving brother, who is giving his commentary on learning about the children's disappearance, learning about the children's deaths, speaking on he had this sick gut feeling about the kids as he did with Vallow, the husband who was also murdered by their other brother, Alex Cox. It's just a very sick situation. And what's more disturbing is you have two unstable people dating each other, then marrying each other while one was already in a relationship, married. Two people married, two people psychotic, knocking off their spouses, using the brother to aid in the murder of a husband, also using the brother to aid in the murder of his own niece and nephew. Because one would have to say he played a role. That's how they were able to find the children buried at Daybell's property. It's from data from Alex's phone. So he's wrapped in it. He's dead now, but he's wrapped in it. And how quaint it is for him to just die 2 months later after all of this shenanigans going on. 3 months or so after the kids go missing, he dies. And that's what I believe is going to happen. She is going to blame Alex as the sole person that killed the kids. But you still have to be implicating your own husband. If you want to say, well, I don't know anything about it, I have an alibi, I was somewhere else. The point is, he's your brother, he's your husband. You moved out the next day after the police came knocking on your door. So the court is going to show to the jury, why would a person move out after a welfare check the next day? Why is it when you were asked to bring the kids to the court and you were mandated by a court to bring them, you couldn't bring them? You couldn't bring them because they were dead. What are the odds of your kids being dead and buried and dismembered on your new husband's property? Why is your brother's phone pinging at this property? And why do we now have commentary from his wife of him joking about killing your husband? See, it's stair step, one thing after the other, which shows premeditation and conspiring by all parties. And the fact that you never produced the children, you went over to Hawaii with this man, trying to avoid, I guess, apprehension and accountability for the kids, never searching for the children, never putting a missing report for the children. That shows premeditation. It shows you have knowledge of what happened to your kids. Because why would you not, one, tell people, hey, my son's missing. Hey, my daughter's missing. You never once reported the kids missing, number one. You had an excuse of where the children were, which is odd. Why would two children just all of a sudden start staying with other people's houses, in other people's homes and houses, but you're walking around with this new husband? You lied to the school. You lied to the neighbors. You lied to your family. And then a year unfolds, which I find very strange. Why it would take a whole year to find the kids? That's suspect to me. Because at some point, when she never produced the children to the court and the legal system, police and state attorney's office should have realized that the kids were dead. And you all should have started searching for the children on anyone's property related to Lori Vallow, which would have been Daybell's property. I don't see why it would have taken a whole year to find the kids. You knew she married this guy. You all had to talk to people that told you her behavior was spiraling out of control even before she met him. Then she's talking crazy afterwards. So Daybell's property should have been the first property you went to go look for the children. But naturally, you have to get a warrant, and you have to have, as we say, probable cause to get a warrant signed by a judge. But that shouldn't have been hard, considering the kids never surfaced. Day 1, week 1, month 2, month 3. No kids. I don't think it should have been hard to get a warrant to say, we're going to go over to this man's property and search, since this is a new husband. His wife just died mysteriously. She just got a dead husband. Now her kids are missing. That's enough probable cause to get a warrant. So it's bullshit. The kids could have been found. How did the children die? What will be her defense in court? She will also have to implicate Mr. Daybell. That's why she wants to also talk to him. I meant to put that in the title as well. She wants to talk to her husband. Naturally, she needs to talk to him so they can come up with how they're going to maneuver in the court system in the upcoming trials. Will she implicate, one, her dead brother, two, her husband? You have to implicate your husband because you've already shown the general public that you never look for your children, you never search, and you never put out a missing persons report on your missing kids. So it shows cause that you were aware that your children were gone, not missing, but legally dead. So what is she going to say to her husband, Mr. Daybell? Will they decide to just take a plea to try to preserve their life and not get the death penalty? Because the death penalty is relevant in the state of Idaho. And with all the giddiness and smiling and rocking back and forth in court, she does not take this serious. This is for attention. But as I've told people, when a person knows they're not going to get out of the penal system, they can play these type of mind games, Minecraft, because they know they're not going anywhere. And she knows she's not going anywhere. Daybell knows he's not going anywhere. Because when you factor in phone data, private conversations, eyewitness bringing conversations, all these different people that are going to testify, their fate is signed, sealed, and delivered. I don't think you'll find anybody in Idaho that will say they had nothing to do with the deaths of the children because she never showed that she cared. So how did she go from an allegedly caring mother to killing her two children? A dead husband. New husband has a dead wife before they got married, right before they got married, matter of fact. All this is going to show cause that you all knock these people off as not to have baggage, as to get together without hassle, as not to be in court wrangling with child support and dividing up properties and monies and bank accounts. That's why you all knock these people off. And it's crazy to me that Lori would get her brother to kill her husband in that house she had just moved in, no furniture. But then next thing you know, she's killing her kids. So what was the purpose in killing the husband? Because perhaps that's a lie she used to get her husband killed. Oh, I won't custody the kids. He'll never give them to me. They'll never give me the kids. We got to knock him off. Got to get rid of him. And the brother stupidly baited that man that day in that house. Of course he did. And that guy popped off. He fell for it. And he ended up dying on the floor of an empty-ass house. Now that brother is dead after helping kill his own niece and nephew. And 9 times out of 10, he helped cut up the body. Daybell helped, some form of fashion. There's no way Alex just drove to this house and dug up this man's property without his knowledge. So they all conspired together with their Jesus talk. And I don't think Jesus is too happy with you conspiring to kill wives and children. Favorable God he is. Forgiving God he is. But you can't say for the record, he's pleased with you. Because if you don't have any remorse, you haven't repented, then how could God be in favor of you at this moment? Sitting in court, skinning and grinning and laughing, and your 2 kids are chopped up. What is the cause of death of these kids? Let me see what I can find. One moment. Thank you. Welcome to the vault. I have no control over the YouTube notifications. They render the notifications. Thank you. Let's see what they give us pertaining to the deaths of the children. I don't know if they'll have anything. It says JJ was found dead in a duct tape plastic bag while Tylee's body was burned, dismembered, and left in a pet cemetery on the property. Once again, ongoing investigation. Per the affidavit, Chad texted, "Well, I've had an interesting morning. I felt I should burn all the limb debris by the fire pit before it got too soaked by the coming storms." So I heard this the other day. So obviously he is a dodo bird too, another stupid person in Idaho trying to commit a crime, such as the mess that's transpired in Moscow, Pullman, Washington. Why would you text this to somebody that you're burning limb debris by the fire pit before it gets soaked by the storm? Then he says, "While I did so, I spotted a big raccoon along the fence. I heard and got my gun, and he was still walking along. I got close enough that one shot did the trick. He is now in our pet cemetery. Fun times." This is a Christian man speaking about killing a raccoon. And one would assume, what? It's true that he killed a raccoon? Or he's talking about one of these kids? I got a feeling the kids were already dead when they got to his house. I don't know. But we just know that data from the dead brother's phone led to the discovery of the two decedent children. So Lori has been indicted for the murders of her late husband and her two children. She's pled not guilty to the 3 charges brought against her. Later, the state announced that it plans to pursue the death penalty. She's still remanded in jail, as most of you know, and she will be prosecuted alongside her lover, Chad. So it doesn't give a definite definition of how the children died. Naturally, they cut the girl up. So if she was found, nobody would know how she died. But my thing is, it won't matter. People want to know naturally, because we're always asking for the motive and the how and the where and the when. But you cut a person up, put them on a property out in the middle of nowhere, on a property of somebody that's your new husband. Once again, it shows cause premeditation. Because you can't explain how 2 children, 2 different ages, would end up dead, one dismembered and 1 feet away in another grave on the same property. They didn't know the man. They weren't friends with the man. That's your new husband. Your new husband. This is diabolical. And the fact that, like I said, 2 evil beings meeting up and conspiring with one another, and then bringing the brother into the fold with this religious BS, one would have to wonder if this wasn't even about religion, because I don't believe it's about religion. They were just sick anyway. Would the brother have went along with this if they were just regular people, weren't talking about doomsday and all of that? Would the brother have helped? Would the brother have helped kill the husband and also kill the children? There was no religious entities involved. Would the brother have helped kill her husband and also the 2 children? Because that's their driving force pertaining to these deaths. Even though they're going to say, we didn't kill them, but they're going to lean on Jesus and stay in this Jesus mode. So if the world was coming to an end, why didn't they kill themselves? You're killing everybody else. Oh, I forgot, you're the chosen one. So what's so special about you that Jesus is choosing you? And as far as buying food and this and that, because I heard in one commentary, they were buying up a lot of food and products. Well, that makes no sense. You do that if you assume that apocalypse is coming and you're going to be left behind. if you're chosen, you won't be left behind. So obviously Chad and Lori don't really know much about the scripture. And the Book of Mormon is not the Bible anyway, so therefore, there you have it. If you're going to be chosen by God when he comes back, you won't be needing canned goods, dry goods. For what? If he's choosing you to take you with him, you won't be in need of anything. You won't be in need of anything. That's the whole purpose of being chosen. That's what chosen means. I'm choosing you. You want me to believe the world would end and then he would leave you? For what reason if he wanted you to be with him? Just sick. Sick people. Distractify is the source pertaining to the children's deaths. Thank you for joining me. Now I'll bring you more information pertaining to this mess out of Idaho. More nonsense. ABC 7 was my commentary pertaining to the brother, Adam, giving his commentary. I brought you Wiki Bio pertaining to Lori and her past, net worth. Once again, WTOC.com, Leilani Simon's lawyers filed motion seeking Superior Court to review DFCS cases to see if it has any validity in her current murder charge against her son, Quentin Simon. And as most of you know, Lisa Marie Presley has passed away at the age of 54. Prayers to the family. Let's talk about her son, and then I will play you commentary from her dead brother's wife. This is uploaded the 13th of September, 2022. Sexual assault charges against Colby Jordan Ryan, the eldest and only surviving son of Lori Vallow Daybell, who was accused of killing her two other children, have been dropped, according to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Ryan was arrested last week in Arizona after being accused by his estranged wife of rape. I can confirm that this office has filed a motion to dismiss without prejudice, which allows the office to file charges in the future and provides time for additional review of the case. Maricopa County Attorney Office Communications Director Jennifer Luer told CBS News in a statement on Tuesday. Ryan, 26, was released from custody Thursday, according to a release document from the attorney's office. The terms of Ryan's release stipulate that he cannot initiate contact with either the arresting officers or the alleged victim. According to a probable cause document, Ryan and his wife, who were no longer living together, had been watching TV at the wife's home during the prior week to his arrest. The two began consensually kissing, according to the statement, but Ryan's wife then indicated she wanted to stop. Ryan continued, however, and began to touch her in a sexual manner, the probable cause statement said. Ryan's wife told police that he then sexually assaulted her, while she again told him to stop. I don't want to do it, while trying to push him off of her, police document said. Afterward, Ryan apologized and began to cry. The document said his wife locked herself in her bedroom and Ryan slept on the couch, the document said. The next day, Ryan's wife recorded a conversation the two had in which Ryan admitted to the inappropriate touching and agreed that he raped the victim, the document said. Ryan made similar admissions to police after he was arrested, the document stated. Ryan's mother, Lori Vallow Daybell, and her new husband, Chad Daybell, faced numerous charges in a bizarre case. So she recorded him, and he did agree that he raped her, it says in the document. And it also says that he made similar admissions to police after he was arrested, the document stated. The rest of the article just recounts the charges against Lori and Chad Daybell pertaining to the first-degree murder of the children. The Daybells were under investigation by law enforcement. Idaho law, 2019 is when they started investigating them after extended family members reported the children missing. While the children were missing, police said the couple lied about the children's whereabouts. Their bodies were found buried later on Chad Daybell's property in rural Idaho. Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow Daybell, married just 2 weeks after his previous wife, Tammy Daybell, died. Unexpectedly, Tammy Daybell's death was initially reported as natural causes, but investigators had her body exhumed after growing suspicions when Chad Daybell quickly remarried. Lori Daybell is also charged with conspiracy to commit murder in Arizona in connection with the death of her previous husband, Charles Vallow, who was shot and killed by Lori Vallow Daybell's brother, Alex Cox, who claimed it was self-defense. Cox later died of what police said was natural causes. As most of you know, she's entered a not guilty plea, invoked her right to a speedy trial, which legally needed to stay placed by October. Now, of course, it will transpire this year. Let's see. Everything's just basic information from last year. CBS News is the source. This was uploaded a few months back in 2022 pertaining to her son. So they still can bring forth charges if they want to. The state, he is not to contact any of the officers or the victim, his estranged wife. Will they divorce? Will they get back together? How's this going to be? I find it strange hearing this information. I'm a day late, dollar short on this information because I just watched a documentary pertaining to his family life on Netflix. He and his wife seemed very happy. So in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, well, my goodness, what happened in the marriage for him and her to be estranged from one another? And then he goes to the house and spend time with her and rape his wife. Naturally, there are people who are going to say that it's not rape. You're married. But no does mean no. If a person says they do not want to engage in sexual activity, that is their right not to engage, whether you are married or not, or you're in a relationship. But there are people who will have views and won't view it as rape because they are married. You are entitled to your interpretation. But the law says rape is rape. If a person says no, then that's what they mean. CBS News is a source of that. Is he ill? Something wrong with him? Is it in the bloodline that something's wrong with these people? I did not say this at the beginning of this live because there's so much to remember when taking notes on these type of cases. But Lori's mother, to me, is oblivious as well. I watched her in that Netflix documentary, and she was just as ignorant as her daughter, trying to compartmentalize Lori Vallow. She's trying to put over here in one box the Lori she raised as a child, the Lori she knew before the murders, and this Lori that's accused of murder, plural. Well, that's the point of a story. That Lori is not the child that you raised. She is not the girl who was married at 20-something versus this person here. People change. That's the point. A 6-year-old is not going to stay the same at 18. An 18-year-old is not going to be the same at 30. A 30-year-old is not going to be the same at 50. People change. Hair color, eye color, skin color, humpback, arthritis, diabolical, evil, alcoholic, drug addict, married a lot of times, don't marry, don't have children, family woes, custody issues, marriage issues, divorces. Things happen. Obviously, Lori was sick all along and you just didn't know how sick she was, mother. So you're trying to chop her up in little pieces because you don't want to face the fact that you raised a demon seed. You want to talk about how she was as a child, but that little girl grew up to be an evil human being. It is what it is. Because there's no excuses for her to be killing her husband or her children. So that shows right there she's ill. You can't put Jesus in the mix of murdering your kids and using doomsday and, oh, we were the chosen ones and I've been reincarnated. And even when I listened at this other stupid woman talking in that damn documentary about she's been here before, we've all been reincarnated. I don't know that I've been anybody else but Angela. So that's a lie. That's your ideology. And I don't even know why they spoke to her for the documentary. But this just goes to show you that these people are ill. And it goes to what I said about one thing begets another. People are already tainted. People already have a jacked up way of living and viewpoint. So then they go meet this person. Then they go start reading a book, watching a TV. And before you know it, they're sucking in that information and it's making what's already a jacked up mind go downhill. See, the devil uses people when he knows that you are already ripe and messed up, or you're trying to better yourself. He infiltrates and he sends in jacked up situations and circumstances. He uses people to manipulate you, deceive you, or he uses you to be a deceptor, deceiver. Either way, you're being used, whether by your own admission originally, or you went in and got in cahoots with somebody doing wrong. Still all the same. You have free will and you know right from wrong. It's just a choice. I did it because I wanted to. Because we can't, as adults, keep saying, well, he made me do it. She made me do it. Nobody makes you do anything. You went along with it for your own reasoning. Whether you thought it was wrong or right at the time, you were hesitant, you still went along. That's a choice. And you have to own what you do, whether it's wrong or not, whether you think it's right and it's wrong. And no way you can explain killing all these people as a part of God's plan. God told you to do this. You talked to Jesus. You ain't talked to Jesus because Jesus would have told you not to kill your husband and your damn kids. So don't put Jesus in it. And that's something I don't like is when people pimp the Bible or God. Allah, Yahweh, all of that type of nonsense. God ain't told you to do nothing. You did that because you wanted to. You all were just evil, selfish people that wanted to be in cahoots with each other, and you took the coward's way out by knocking off all these people so you wouldn't have to stand account to them and get an easy way out of getting divorce papers, insurance money, so on and so forth. People leave their children with people all the time to be in relationships or just go do their own thing. And that's what you all should have done. Gave your children to somebody else and run off and marry each other. That's your damn business. In the end, you got to stand account for how you treat your kids. It'll be up to the kids if they want to be forgiving or not. You didn't give them an option because you killed them. And the fact that the brother went along with it is even more disturbing. So now you're talking about 3 nut jobs, 2 incarcerated, now 1's dead. Now we have a son being accused of raping his own wife, her only living son. So it's some taintedness in this family. Something's off. And the way her mother talks about her, it's something wrong with the mother. Suntan, dried up, old prune, dried up, dark ass lipstick she's wearing in this documentary. She looks a hot ass mess. Shouldn't even been on a documentary looking that way. So hideous. And she's basically telling you, I ain't trying to focus on this new Lori. I'm on the old one. Well, that's why Lori's where she is. Because maybe somewhere in her upbringing, you all coddled your children to become demons. You aided them in foolishness and nonsense and bad behavior. And you believed anything they told you. Because I got a feeling Lori probably was a pathological liar growing up. Because you just don't wake up one day knocking off husbands and children. You had something sinister in you all along. And Chad isn't the full blame. Because it's been said she was becoming erratic with this religion way before she met Chad Daybell. He was just the icing on the cake. Thank you for joining me. 1 second. Well, they had him before. That's the point. They thought they were doing the right thing by letting these people raise these kids because they were older. I get it. The older people don't want to be taking care of people's children because they're older. Too late now. Kids are dead. Can't go back. Sadly, they made a bad decision. They didn't know that this stupid wanks were going to kill the kids. let's hear from the brother's wife, the dead brother. Hopefully I've got this information up here. Thank you all so much for joining me. That's why I don't listen to people that go on and on about the Bible and the Book of Mormon and all that, Jehovah's Witness, the Quran. It doesn't matter what it is. I don't listen at that. I don't listen at none of that. Because I don't like people that Bible thump 24 hours a day. They can't hold a conversation without going on and on. It's something not right. Because you don't have to thump the Bible or the Book of Mormon or whatever to tell me that you believe in God. It's like you're trying to prove to yourself you believe in God. Because they always say they're not trying to prove it to you. They're trying to prove it to themselves. So they go on and on and on about the Bible, the Quran, blah, blah, blah. But they're trying to prove to themselves that they're faithful. Because there are people like that. They can't hold a conversation unless they're Bible thumping or they're talking about Jesus and God and he said this and I saw him and he knocked on my door this morning and, just utter nonsense. And that's the whole point of people who are deceivers. They're looking for a victim. Somebody that can ride along with them, listen at the nonsense, jump on board. You've seen this with all these cults and fanatical religious pastors, rabbis, whoever. They need a victim. They need an audience, and they can't get it. They need a listener. That's the whole purpose of it. It defeats the purpose in preaching about the Bible and the Mormon and this if I don't got no listener. It only helps if somebody listens. Okay, let me go look at my community page because I'm trying to find this content pertaining to this wife who has given commentary pertaining to the brother, her and the brother's conversations. Very wicked stuff going on. Here it is. Law and Crime is the source. Thank you all so much for joining me. One moment, please.
Investigations, Detective Coons.
Hi, Detective Coons. This is Debbie. I'm returning your call.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Thank you for calling back.
Sure.
So, I'm not really sure. Did you provide the Chandler Police Department with a tip on the specific homicide investigation?
I did.
Okay. I didn't want to lead into what the information was or anything like that, or even assume that it was you, because sometimes people play games with us online. So,
Sure.
So I've read the information that you provided, and I'm assuming you typed the information out?
I did.
Okay. What is it that you can actually talk to us about regarding all of this?
Well, I can only share the conversation. So I was married to Alex many years ago, and our marriage ended within a year, but we stayed in very close contact for several years. And I spoke to Alex last, right after he had served time in jail for the assault on Joseph Ryan. And when he was telling me about it, now Alex, I'm sure you know from your investigation, was a comedian. And he was always joking about things in a funny way or trying to be funny. And he did tell me he was still really, really mad at Joseph Ryan because of things with his sister Lori.
Okay.
Custody issues. And he had told me that Joseph Ryan had possibly sexually abused the kids, Colby, as well as Tylee. But when I would ask Alex a lot of questions about it and try to dig deeper, then it would turn into, well, we're just trying to get custody. And he would flip-flop around quite a bit on whether or not that abuse had actually taken place, whether they had any proof it had taken place, or if they were just playing games to try and help his sister get custody.
Mm-hmm.
But in that conversation, he told me that he wanted to bait Joseph Ryan into a fight so that he could kill him. And if I had really at that time thought he was serious, because he said it in a joking way, but it was so creepy and weird. Weird enough that I never spoke to Alex again. That was the last time I ever talked to him. I just thought, okay, jail has not been kind to him. He's off his rocker. I really don't want to have this guy in my life anymore.
Oh.
So I just never spoke to him again. That was the last time. But he had told me he wanted to bait him into a fight so that he could kill him and claim self-defense.
Okay. And how long after how long after Alex had been released from serving his time that you guys had this talk?
I think it was probably 2-3 months.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure on the dates, but I know it was relatively soon after, just not immediately.
Okay. Did he ever go into any details of what he did to Joe or anything like that, or why he did that?
Yeah, he told me that he had tased him, and he told me that the reason he did it was because Joe was making it difficult for Lori to get custody of the kids. He also claimed that he did it as punishment for sexually abusing the kids. He said he thought Joseph deserved to die because of the sexual abuse. But really, Alex couldn't provide any. Well, I didn't know because I was like, well, are you sure? How do you know? Did you take the kids to a doctor? I was asking a lot of questions, and he just couldn't be straight with the answers. But those were his reasons that he stated to me that he had tased Joe.
Okay, and did he say that he had tried to kill Joe that time, or was it something different?
He didn't say he was trying to kill him. He just wanted to hurt him.
Okay.
But he did tell me he wanted to kill him, but I took it more of, I want to kill that guy, just kind of conversational. I didn't think he would actually go do something like that.
Okay.
I was even shocked that he tased him. But I didn't even know about the tasing. I heard about it from Alex.
What do you mean you didn't know about the tasing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Alex had kind of fallen off the radar. Mm-hmm. We hadn't talked for about a year. And so I just thought he kind of fell off the radar. And then we talked, and he told me where he'd been the last year and what he had done.
Okay. When did
I got married in 92.
So then you got divorced in 93?
Yeah. Yeah, that, I don't know that this helps anything with the investigation, but as soon as I married him, I didn't know his family before we got married. We dated, whirlwind romance, got married, then I got to know the family. And there were so many crazy dynamics in that family and I've gone back since all of this came out and read my journals from that period of time. And there was just a lot of crazy dynamics in that family back then. And it caused a lot of issues right away, and it actually made me scared and nervous.
How so?
And we thought of that, because there was a lot of inappropriate sexual touching and things going on in the family, particularly between him and his sister.
So between Alex and Lori?
and Lori.
Okay, you kind of got me at a loss on this one. What do you consider inappropriate sexual touching?
Like they were simulating sex acts, and which is not normal to me for a brother and a sister. For example, he would pick her up and she'd wrap her legs around his waist, and he would kind of bounce her up and down on himself.
Okay.
In front of me, and they would moan and simulate sex acts. And I have brothers, and I would never act like that with one of my brothers.
Okay.
And his mom and dad talked about their sex life in front of us constantly, and it just kind of seemed to be a game for them.
Oh,
to
the
talk
mom and
about
dad
their...
didn't really object to it then, huh?
No, not at all. All of this was going on in the family, in front of everybody. They had no shame.
Okay. So that obviously was kind of an alarm for you, I'm assuming, during your marriage.
Yeah.
And did it continue? Was it more than one time that you saw it?
Yeah, it was just about every time we were with them. Now, Alex and I only lived together married for about 4 or 5 months. And then I just knew that that family was too weird, that I had made a big mistake. And so I got out.
Okay. So at the time, were you guys part of LDS?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, both of us had been baptized, but neither one of us were being active.
Okay.
And I was only baptized and active for a year of my life anyway. I wasn't really raised LDS.
All right.
Groceries, gas, rent.
Sorry about that, you guys. Intermission. Very interesting information. Parents talking about their sex lives in front of people, and this decedent brother bouncing Lori up on top of him, I guess emulating sexual acts. I don't know. Did they have a sexual relationship while adults? Did he molest her as a child when they were children? Or has it continued as they were adults? I don't know. Will somebody else verify any information to this, if this was behavior that happened between the two? Lord have mercy, what a mess.
All right. How did Alex talk about Lori?
Ooh, mercy.
Well, he was a really, really protective big brother, but he also talked about her being hot, and he sexualized her quite a bit. But he was just also really, really protective. We lived in the same apartment complex for a while, and it just kind of seemed like Alex just chased after her a lot.
Did you ever suspect anything more going on other than their playfulness, I guess?
Well, I asked him because he did touch her breasts and things, but they were allowed to do that in their family. So to him, he didn't think it was weird. He thought I was weird for thinking it was weird. And so we talked about that stuff a lot, but I didn't think he was sleeping with her.
Okay.
I just thought he had the liberty to touch her.
Did you ever confront him on that?
Yeah, I did. And I confronted him on, what about when we have kids? Would you allow that between our kids? And he just didn't think that there was anything wrong with what was going on.
Okay.
So we thought about it.
So you mentioned that he was a protective big brother. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that?
Well, he just, she had been married. She got married really quickly. I think she ran off to Las Vegas, and this was right before I married Alex. I think she ran off to Las Vegas with one of...
Once again, did these two have an inappropriate relationship as children, Alex and Lori Vallow Daybell? Did he ever molest his children or vice versa? The fact that he didn't think there was anything wrong with his behavior with his sister shows that there had been sexual deviances between the two, because you don't touch your brothers and sisters, period. No matter what the age is, whether you're a child or you're an adult. Anybody with sense knows a grown man has no reason to be touching his sister's boobs, buttocks, sexualizing her, saying she's hot. That's just not something you say about your siblings. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I have a very beautiful sister. I have a very handsome brother. You know, you're acknowledging their beauty. But when you are sexualizing them, such as they're hot, that doesn't sound appropriate. It isn't appropriate. And as I said, there are many people who will brag on their family members as being, you know, very handsome. You know, there might be some females who said that about their own brothers. Honey, I got a hot brother. But somebody may misconstrue that, especially if you go on and on with it. And a man saying that about his own sister and also touching her inappropriately on her breast and they're grown, that would lead me to believe that possibly these two have done things as children and possibly were still continuing to do things together. And you can see that he was in Lori's fold by moving out there to Rexburg, going along with killing her husband and then killing her children. I believe he killed her children because why is data on his phone leading to these children burial site at Chad's property? Because you went out there. You took those kids out there and you dumped them. And possibly he's the one that killed her kids, her own brother, alongside herself and Chad. And to me, it doesn't really matter who wielded the knife, the gun, the bat. You're all complicit in conspiring and killing the kids. So one male stood outside, been at Piggly Wiggly while the other one was strangling them, beating them, cutting them up. It's all the same to me. You had knowledge. You may not have wielded the baton, but you had knowledge. And I believe there was some sexual deviances between the brother and sister. I'm going to go out on a limb and say possibly there was. If not at that time, they've done something together as children or even possibly young adults. And we have learned that in some cases, the sexual molestation goes on into adulthood, that people are still having sex with their brothers and sisters, cousins, parents. And that's shameful because you're now an adult. You do not have to continue to be being touched or having sexual relations with your relatives. You don't want to have sex with them. You let them know, I'm not doing this. I'm grown. Don't touch me this way. Don't talk to me. Frankly, I don't feel like you should even have anything to do with people that have been touching you as children. That's my personal opinion. Because if they have not sought any type of help, they will still try to touch you again and you're grown. And I know this from as a brief story I told you personally. One person touching the kids as children. Now the girls are grown and he's still wanting to touch them inappropriately. That's because that's what he was doing when they were kids. So that's something I've witnessed personally. Grown man touching his nieces. Now they're grown. He's still wanting to touch and grope and don't care who's looking. Why would a grown man want to grab his niece's buttocks? You don't hit your grown niece on the butt because that's what you were doing when they were children. And you think it's still okay, which means you're still a sadist and a pedophile. So possibly these two had some dealings with one another, even as adults. That would be a terrible thing to know, but who's going to tell it? He's dead and she's in La La Land, Lori Vallow. So good luck with that. Law and Crime Network is the source. Thank you for joining me. You're now listening to The Vault.
Las Vegas with one of her. She married a guy and then came home, and Alex would just always talk about how he wanted to go kick his ass.
Was this Joe or was this somebody else?
No, this was someone else. She got married when she was like 18.
Oh, okay.
And they didn't approve of her choice, and she did run away and elope. And the minute she got back to California, their dad, Barry, made her divorce him. And so Alex was like really, really bothered by that. But if anybody kind of looked at her wrong or treated her how he thought was not right, then he was always talking about how he wanted to kick their ass.
Okay, and did you ever see him take steps to that?
No, I really thought he was all talk and no action on that.
Okay.
Well, it happened, so he wasn't all talk.
He always just talked really tough back then.
How old were they when you guys got married and you saw this behavior?
I was 22 and Alex was 24.
Okay. And I'm unfamiliar with how much older Alex was than Lori.
I'd say 3-4 years.
3 to 4 years. So, okay, so
Yeah.
she was maybe 20, 21 at the time?
Yeah, yep, that sounds right.
Okay. And this, where was this at? What state?
Utah.
In Utah?
Mm-hmm. Lori and Alex both lived here in Utah. And then we just went to California a lot. And so a lot of the inappropriate behavior that I saw, I didn't see any of that in Utah. All of the inappropriate behavior I saw was in California at their mom and dad's house.
Reporting from Ted Russell Ford, Nick and Jake with some breaking news. That's
Sorry about
right,
that,
the
guys.
panel patrol's on a new mission, and by
Had to
new we
step
mean
away
new
for a minute.
forwards. The full stat says
So anytime that you guys went to visit the parents, that's when you saw this behavior?
Yeah.
Okay. And otherwise, how was his behavior at the apartments other than, I guess, kind of touching her?
At the apartments, I didn't really see them interact too much. It seemed like here in Utah, she had her friends that she ran around with, and Alex and I were always together. And so I didn't see a whole lot of interaction. I just remember a lot of the conversations about him wanting to beat up the guys she was dating. And he was always kind of obsessed with where she was going and what she was doing, but we didn't do a lot with her.
Okay. And is that also during that time frame that he would refer to her as being hot, or would that be only when you were visiting the family?
No, that was, during that time he would talk about how hot she was.
Okay. And to your knowledge, are they biological brother and sister?
They are, to my knowledge.
Okay. And you never talked to him after that last comment where he stated he was going to try to bait Joe into a fight?
Yeah, no, that was the last time I talked to him.
Okay. And forgive me, would that have been in 2009?
I'm going to go back for just a second. Once again, was there a sexual relationship between Lori and Alex Cox while they were children or adults? The fact that this lady said she only saw the inappropriate behavior when they were at the home of their parents in California, one would wonder if perhaps there was sexual deviances by the parents onto their children. Did any of the parents molest their children? Lori, Alex, Adam? Because Adam speaks as if everything was normal with his family up until the disappearance of these children, and before that, the murder of the husband. So was this family wacky, overly sexual? Because if we're to believe what this lady's saying the truth, the parents didn't mind talking about their sex lives. Maybe that's the reason why the brother didn't find anything wrong with touching his sister, groping her, Lori, in front of his family and other guests, because they have a sexualized family dynamic. And when you live around people who talk about sex a lot, they walk around half naked in front of their children. They talk sex talk. then why would you expect it to be different for their children? Their children would be the same because they're around that, so they would think that behavior is appropriate. It doesn't necessarily mean that anybody molested anybody. It doesn't mean that the children were molested by their parents or that the children molested each other. But when you have overt conversations and nudity in the house, showing of nudity, perhaps also showing porn on TV, then the kids learn from their predecessors. Well, we talked about sex. We looked at sex. They did sex in front of us. Who's to say that they didn't even have sex in front of their kids? Walked around naked and touching each other and groping each other in their private parts in front of their children, then their children will become overly sexed as well. It might be the reason why Lori kept getting husband after husband after husband. Maybe she was a overly sexed person, seeking sex, needing to be with somebody. As I've heard one man say, I have to have somebody. I got to be with somebody in a relationship. But yet this person can't stay faithful in a relationship. So in a way, it's kind of like, so what do you need that person for? You can get sex anywhere. You don't have to be married in a relationship, especially if you're not going to carry your weight and you're not going to be a responsible adult and be faithful. But some people are overly sexed. They have to have it all the time, need it. So what happened with these people as brothers and sisters, all their siblings? What did they see in their house? What was exhibited in their house? And was there sexual improprieties with adults, children, and children? Very interesting information. This is a former wife of Alex Cox speaking about her relationship with the then husband, dynamics of dealing with him thereafter, and this Lori Vallow Daybell. Thank you for joining me. And also, when you watch the Netflix documentary, you will hear the son's wife say the same as far as jealousy, let's say. Similar dynamic, that she felt like Lori was jealous of her and her relationship with her son, comparing Jesus and her, saying Jesus would love me more than you, or something to that effect. You can't say what Jesus would do. I mean, you're a murderer. So how are you going to speak of what Jesus would do and say? And I also found strange in that documentary when they were all together for this wedding, Tylee was a no-show at the wedding. So I have to ask myself, did this marriage take place in September of 19? Because if it did, this is when the little girl would have been dead. She was last seen after. She was not seen after September 8th, 2019, after visiting Yosemite. So did the brother get married after September 8th, 2019? If he did, then this would show the daughter was already dead. Thank you for joining me. You are listening to the Vallow Law and Crime Network as a source.
2009?
Yeah.
Or would that have been a little later?
No, I think it was 2009 when I was doing the math.
Okay. But it was...
It was right after he had just been in jail.
Okay. And you said like a couple months maybe after he got out.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. And at that point, did you ever hear of Alex being violent to anybody other than the event with Joe?
No, I hadn't. Like I said, I really thought Alex was all talk and no action. And so I never thought that could happen.
Okay. Did Alex ever...
I was shocked by the tasing.
Well, I can imagine if you've never seen that type of behavior, I can certainly imagine the shock that could come from that. Did Alex ever talk about religion with you or any ideology that he had?
Yeah, he did. While he and I were married, he got excommunicated from the Mormon Church. And then over the course of the years of our communicating after our divorce, I know that he said he got rebaptized and then he got excommunicated again. And then I just don't think he ever bothered to try to get rebaptized, but he was always really, really, convicted in the faith.
Convicted in the faith, but yet you keep getting excommunicated. Why was Alex being excommunicated by this church or the branch that he was trying to be affiliated with? See, I wouldn't care to be in a church that's going to be telling me what I can and cannot do. As I've already said, when you become a legal adult, you know right from wrong. So to have somebody watching you and gawking your every move and what you're doing, that's not going to work. So what we have to ask ourselves, is it because he was breaking the law, getting into trouble, and they would excommunicate him? Why would they be excommunicating him? I'd like for her to elaborate. I also wish she had elaborated when she was asking him about the touching and the groping. Hey, did you ever have a sexual relationship with your sister? 2, are you having a sexual relationship with your sister? How do you see your sister? Those are the questions you're supposed to ask. Because this Q&A she's having with this detective was kind of vague when he asked her, well, what was his answer when you asked him about what he was doing with the sister and what about when we have children? She basically says, oh, he felt like there's nothing wrong with it. I would have asked more than that. You have to be specific in your questioning when you are wondering about something. And a lot of times people don't like to ask direct questions because they don't want to be ostracized or thought of in a sick way. But I'm looking at your behavior that seems apparently sick to me, so why not ask? She didn't want to hurt his feelings by directly asking, hey, have you had sex with your sister? Hey, did you ever molest your sister? Hey, were you molested by your parents? She didn't want to ask those questions. Now, maybe she did and just don't tell it in this interview. I don't know. But that's the only way you're going to get to the truth is if you ask. They're hard questions. They're demeaning questions. Accusatory questions. But why walk around wondering when you can just ask directly? Have you had sexual relations with your sister as a child and or adult and or now? And wait for the response. Naturally, he would probably deny it because he already felt like there's nothing wrong with him groping her. So he's not going to admit, yeah, we used to play house as children. I molested my sister and other siblings growing up. Yeah, my mom and dad molested me and my brothers and sisters. Who's going to tell that? No, he's not going to admit that. Because it's sad to say that people grow up and still think it's okay for people to be touching them and they are adults. They don't fight back. They don't lash out. They don't call the perpetrator out to say, hey, I'm an adult now. I don't want to participate in sex games with you. What you're doing is wrong. Some people still go along with the sexual abuse even as adults. Let's continue this.
He has very strong opinions, but where Alex is weak is he was just sexually promiscuous. And so then he just kept getting kicked out of the church because I think he was a sex addict.
Our brains are wired in a
sex addict. This is why he's excommunicated. Well, how would the church know he's a sex addict? Was he getting arrested for any sexual improprieties against people, children, rape? How would the church know about what you're doing as an adult? So is she speaking of him as an adult in the church or a minor? I'm confused because I'm trying to figure out why would the church and how would the church know what you're doing in your bedroom? This is just crazy to me.
So what makes you think he was sexually promiscuous?
Oh my goodness, because he told me. He would tell me. He couldn't control sex. He would find it wherever he could find it.
And is this after you were divorced?
And it was before also. I was just foolish and thought, oh, he's married now.
Wow.
So that's going to be over. But we were actually living when we first moved in together, we were living in Texas. And he had told me about his struggles with sex addiction before we got married.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't really understand what that was at 22. And so I thought, oh, okay, we get married and it's over. But when we were living in Texas, then he came. I had been wanting to move back to Utah because I didn't like living in Texas. And he wanted to stay, but then all of a sudden he came home from work one day and said, okay, we're moving. Pack up the car. Let's go. I didn't ask questions because I was excited to leave. So we packed up the car and we left, but it was really hurried. And we even left some things behind. But once we got back to Utah, I found out that actually he had slept with a 15-year-old girl while we were living in Texas. And her dad had found out.
Bingo card. Who packs up and just leave? So this is a behavior between he and his sister that's similar. Her children go missing. She plays possum, make up all these excuses where the children are. Police, welfare knock on the door. Next day, Lori Vallow, Daybell is gone. Brother comes home with this wife. Pack up, come on, let's go. She don't ask no questions. What about your job? What were you doing? She just pack up and leave. You left behind valuables because he knew a charge was going to come. That's why I'm sitting here saying, how would the church know anything about your sexual life? Oh, because possibly people were talking. Was the girl in the church that he assaulted? Did they issue a warrant for him? It got out. People in the community found out. The church found out. Because I knew it didn't sound right. Her saying he got excommunicated from the church 2 times. You had to be doing something for the church to say, hey, we don't want to have any dealings with you. So now we hear conversations about a 15-year-old girl. This is bad. This is real bad. So 9 times out of 10, if he's seeking 15-year-olds and he's grown, he was also probably doing it to his own sister, Lori Vallow Daybell.
While we were living in Texas, and her dad had found out, and so her dad was going to come find him.
Gotcha.
So that's why we left.
I'm going to take care of this problem on my own type of a deal.
Wow.
Yeah. So Alex, that was why Alex came home and said, okay, we're leaving right now.
Okay.
And we were already married at that point, but that did play into our divorce. There was just too much promiscuity.
Sure.
Surrounding sex in our marriage early on.
Promiscuity and child rape are 2 different things. He can have all the sex he wants with an adult. I can see leaving him for that. He's a philanderer. But when you factor in he likes little girls, that's a whole different ball game. Because grown-ups still should be able to differentiate the desire of a child versus an adult. So here you're talking about a man that says, well, I like sex with everybody. I like sex with grown women. I like sex with little girls. And I would also wonder, hell, does he like men? You just overly sex. One would wonder who would be considered off limits. Because the list is, you only have a few more options besides children and grown women. Men, the elderly, and animals. Take your pick. Don't mean to be disrespectful. I'm just keeping it real. Where do you draw the line when you become overly sexed and you're in the need of sex and you can't get it when you want? My thing is, how far are you willing to go with desiring sex? Would you rape a person? Rape an elderly person, woman, man? You're sleeping with a 15-year-old? That means you don't have no self-control. You have no reason to be soliciting a child. So as I said, how far did he go in his sexual deviances?
Sex in our marriage early on.
So infidelity then, I'm assuming, was part of the issues?
Just because I only know about the 15-year-old girl. I only know about that one. And then the other sex issues for us were really the situation with his sister.
The situation with his sister with...
Just the touching and, yeah, the touching and the things that we've already talked about.
Okay.
It was just so blatant all the time when we were around her. And it was always Lori. He didn't act like that with his other sister, Summer, because Summer was really, really young. So, and he didn't act like that with his older sister, Stacy. He only acted like that with Lori.
Was Alex physically attracted to Lori Vallow Daybell? Was he attracted to his sister? So now you say, well, he didn't act that way with this sister. He didn't act this way with his younger sister. I still say it's something wrong with him, period. I won't doubt that he's probably touched all of them. How about that? He probably touched all of them, but Lori was his pick, even as an adult. Stay woke. Because this makes no sense to be touching grown people in public and in private parts and say, oh, this is how we get down. So as I said, it's possibly something wrong with the family. The family probably showed overt sexual situations and circumstances, and that's why their children emulated them. Because what you do in front of your children forms their identity, their ideology. So if you walk around naked in your house, when your children get older, they will possibly walk around naked. And they'll tell you, well, we did it at the house. The children, it's no big deal. I walk around in my bra and panties or without a bra in front of my kids. My mom did it. My dad did it. I can't even imagine walking around looking at my father naked. I don't want to look at my mother naked. Even though I'm a woman, she's a woman, I still don't want to look at her naked. And actually growing up, yeah, my mom walked around in her bra and underwear. Because naturally she'd say, hell, this is my house. I do what I want. But that's the point. You have to think about what affects your children. How far you're going to go in raising your children and how you represent yourself in front of your children, your company, their company. The tone you set. And what amazes me about a lot of people, when they become shocked at the behavior of their children when they're grown and the things they get themselves into, they act like, oh, I can't believe he did that. I can't believe she did that. Well, why are you shocked? Did it ever occur to you how you raised them wasn't proper? You did improper things in front of them. You talked improper in front of your children. You subjected your children to improper situations, circumstances. You had the wrong type of people around your children doing nefarious things, gross things, vile things. Look in the mirror. You may not be so shocked if you looked in the mirror and realize you are the problem. Why your children have turned into demon seeds. So a lot of people don't want to own their part in child rearing. They want to mope. I can't believe I'm shocked. You ain't shocked. Because you know, back there in that brain of yours, you allowed some stuff to go on in your household that you shouldn't have allowed. And now your children are acting out as adults. And you can't go back. Can't take it back. This is the former wife of Alex Cox, the dead brother of Lori Vallow Daybell. Thank you for joining me.
I feel like that was Lori.
Okay. Okay. So since all of this stuff has obviously been hitting the media, have you been contacted by any other family members or anyone else and provided that information with the intent that they wanted you to say this or anything like that?
No, I've actually really kept a low profile because I don't want to be in the news. I don't want my kids felt a responsibility to at least say what I heard in that last conversation. And it's taken me a while to even get to you because I left a tip on the Gilbert police, and I left a tip at Idaho, and I left a tip at the FBI. Mm-hmm. And didn't ever hear from anyone. And then it was just this last week I realized I should have left the tip with Chandler. But no, I haven't been contacted. No. I'm not even sure that people can find our marriage and divorce license because it was just so long ago.
Where was that?
So we got married in Wyoming.
Intermission. Thank you for joining me. Whew, what a story to tell. This is why I always say you don't know people. Get involved with people. You really want to know what people are like. It's true. Go around them with their families, their family members. That will tell you a lot about the person you're dealing with and what to look for as far as deviant behavior, animosity, anger, improprieties, deceitfulness. Go around their family members. It will tell you everything you need to know. And it's good to see how people interact with people anyway. Family, mother, father, children. You'll know what you're getting yourself into before you take the plunge down that road or go down a rabbit hole. Because what's worse is to get yourself involved with people and you haven't been around their family long, and then you get tangled up with the person, and then you go start going around their family, you start seeing some real whack behavior, and you may feel stuck. Like you've been deceived. Oh, they didn't tell me this. They didn't show me this. And now you're in deep because you got feelings for the person. And God forbid, now you got to start being around these people or expected to be around them. You feel trapped. It's a terrible place to be. Thank you for joining me.
And was it pretty much a know-nothing deal for the divorce?
Yeah.
Okay. Since they're
Yeah.
no kids in common.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. So I'm asking this next question because it's going to get asked one way or the other. So it's not to be judgmental or anything like that. But why come forward now this far down the road from when the investigation started?
So, like I said, at first, I couldn't even believe it. When I saw it on the news, I thought, I can't believe this happened. And then after about a month of that, then I did start trying to reach out. I tried all of those agencies that I told you about.
Okay. When did you actually first hear about this?
December
of last year?
Yes.
Okay. And that was because of the search for the kids and or the death of Alex or what?
No, it was it was the search for the kids. I was watching the news one night.
Okay, and
and it came on, and I was just floored.
Okay.
Excuse me.
All right. I'm going to just let you know.
So what is the questioning? What is the issue here? When did she first reach out to the FBI local police department pertaining to any information pertaining to Lori, Alex? Because if it's a year or so after the fact and you had already heard about the children missing, so on and so forth, then yes, somebody would think, well, you're just wanting what? 5 minutes of fame. When you first heard the kids were missing, why not say anything? But then maybe she didn't feel the need to say anything because she didn't know that Alex was involved. I don't know. This content's a year ago. So it's 23. This video was uploaded in 22 this time last year. So then you got to count when she actually did the taping of this information. Same time or coming out of 21. If it's 21, it's worse because the kids were found the summer of 20. So that's like a whole year and a half later. You're entitled to your opinion of the information. But like I said, she probably didn't feel the need to say anything about Lori to detectives because maybe she wasn't around her a lot, just that she thought she and the brother had an odd relationship, strange relationship, but not enough to just go say something to authorities. But when she started hearing that perhaps the brother was involved, then yes, that would have been the appropriate time to call law enforcement to give any type of conversation you had with him before his death and in relations to Lori and her children and her husbands.
I'm going to just to let you know, we record our conversations just because the prosecutors want that done. But I'm going to stop the recording now so I can actually ask for your personal information. Okay. So just kind of.
Okay. Can I tell you one thing though? Because I don't want to leave anything out.
Yes.
When I first found out, very first, I did reach out to Alex's sister, Summer, through Instagram and just said, because I heard Alex had died. And so I reached out to his sister, Summer, and I said, I'm just so sorry to hear about Alex. And her response was, don't believe what you're seeing in the news. And that was it. There was no other contact, but I just didn't want you to think that when you asked me if I talked to anyone, I talked to Summer, but that was the only exchange, and that's all it was said.
Very interesting. That's the end of that content, I do believe. I want to share this to my post. Thank you all for joining me. Woo, what a mess. See, you don't know people. That's the point. You don't even know who you're dealing with, who you're talking to. I'm going to read this one comment that was uploaded 3 months ago underneath this video. The interviews with the grandmother, Lori's mother, on the Netflix docuseries left me cold. I felt the woman was oddly detached and performing the occasional emotion incongruous to the savagery and severity of the crimes. At the end of the series, the thought occurred to me that the whole family seemed to have shallow emotional range. I agree. Somebody responded. The sister had the same arrogant smirk as Lori too. The next commenter. I believe she's disassociating as a psychological coping mechanism. Somebody says she's just old. Katie says they're narcissists. They cared more about the family image than the health and safety of family members. Here's somebody else's comment. Someone in the series said people surrounding Lori and Chad didn't realize the severity of their sickness. The only person who saw things as they were was terrified of what Lori was capable of was Charles. Then somebody said, not her children, though. Bless them. I don't know what that means. Thank you. That family has a large shed full of skeletons. You can just feel it. Next. The whole family is weird. Duh. Next comment. Yes, narcissism and probably psychopathy seems to run in the family. Not to mention bipolar with a dash of schizophrenia, eating disorders, Munchausen, etc. It's an unfortunate and frightening gene pool. I thought the same thing, even with the son. Wow. 100%. I'm wondering what happened in Lori's childhood. Like, what was her dad doing? There's a very low empathy in that family. Essay or child cult stuff going on. Stop right there. See, it is just known that in many religions and faiths, people do become very immersed in the teachings that they're learning, whether it's the Bible, the Quran, the Book of Mormon, whichsoever. And they become distorted because they distort really what the word is telling them. And I've seen it with many Christian people. They distort the Bible and the teachings of God, and then they implement it in their daily lives and make excuses for things. But then the kids grow up and their ideology is warped because of what they were taught and what they saw and what they experienced. That's anybody. And that's possibly what has happened with these children here. They have a warped sense of ideology. Something was wrong with them. Because when you start having a slew of children, 5 kids, and you're running the back 2 are jacked up homicidal, you have a fucking problem. And there is no denying that. This crazy lady and her husband have 2 homicidal kids. One's in prison, awaiting trial. That's Lori Vallow, and the son who's now deceased, Alex Cox. Then we have this deviant behavior of Lori's remaining son raping his wife, if you are to believe the allegations against him by the estranged wife. Don't know if they're going to be together or not, divorcing or whatever. but it's still jacked up. The tree is jacked up. And this is what happens with jacked up family trees. The bloodline is tainted, and all the deviant behavior starts to trickle down into the bloodline, and people start to become and emulate what they saw and seen, and also just it's in the blood. It sounds crazy to some, because many people will say, well, I've got a lot of relatives that have done this, broken the law, blah, 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 but I don't do it. I didn't do it. You may not have. You're one of the fortunate ones. You chose a better path. You didn't get swamped in your mindset to do wrong or act out deviant behavior. But some people do. And I believe these two are sick because perhaps they were sexually entwined with one another, Lori and her brother, her dead brother. So that's why he was fascinated with her, infatuated with her, obsessed with her, because he was attracted to her. So he's willing to do anything for her. It would be no different if he was not related to her. Hello, Mark. If he met some chick he was so enthralled with, he would have done the same for her. He looked at her as if she could walk on water. Jesus' sister. It's no different. Because that's why I said when your mind is warped, it doesn't matter the circumstances. You immerse yourself because you're crazy as hell. And you can see he was a right fighter for his sister because possibly they had a sick relationship as children and beyond. So that's why he talked the way he talked to this lady. I'll beat him up. I'll do this. He was dead serious because there is a husband that's dead because of him. He even joked about it in some of his comedy skits. I watched that in the Netflix series. He's standing up there on that stage. He's dead damn serious about them jokes. And everybody knows comedians spin stories about real people. A lot of the stuff is not made up. If they tell you about the fat neighbor, the fat auntie, more than likely there is actually a fat auntie, a fat cousin, jacked up brother. They ain't lying. So when he was doing his comedy skits, talking about the felony, what he wanted to do, he found out later it was a felony. He was spinning you the story of murdering that damn man. Stay woke. And I always tell people about jokes. People only take the joke back when they realize you are offended. But if you don't speak on the joke, they'll let the joke ride. But if you say something against it, then they may say, oh, I didn't mean no harm. I was just joking. You know, I was just playing with you. It's just a joke, not serious. But if you had never said nothing, they let the joke stand on its own. So that was his job. Entertaining, plus secretly or overtly pining for his own damn sister. I don't know. He's dead. I can't ask him. But if a person noticed some improprieties in a person's behavior with their family members, that is their perception. Because that's a wicked thing to think of. A man and a woman being attracted to each other and their brothers and sisters. But we know, as I told you, there are people who are still engaging in sexual acts with their relatives right now. You may not know about it because that's a sinful thing to repeat. Yeah, I'm having sex with my brother. Yeah, I'm having sex with my mother. Who's going to tell that? And there are people who have sick relationships. They have a sick obsession with their family member. The ride or die mentality may not even be sexual, but the relationship is unnatural. This, I'll go to the ends of the earth for my brother. I'll go to the ends of the earth for my sister. Well, you are at the end of the earth. You're dead now. Allegedly natural causes, but nonetheless, you're not here. And your sister's locked up. And everybody around them are dead. You have to watch things. Because at some point, you do have to look at a story and start to wonder what the hell is going on. And when you look at this story of Lori and the Chad and the brother, you have to see that there is something sinister with these people. All these dead bodies. How many dead people can you count on your hand in a 3-month interval? 5 months. Let's just say 5 months. Daybell's wife The 2 children, that's 3. Dead brother, 4. Lori's husband, 5. 5 dead people in less than 6 months. That is no coincidence. Premeditation. Thank you for joining me. You're listening to The Vault. I wanted to bring you one more commentary before I check out of here. You all have a wonderful weekend. I wanted to bring some commentary pertaining to something I heard another woman testifying, giving commentary. One of the wives was testifying, or she was talking to a detective. I thought I had that video, but I can't. Let's see. Let me look. Very sick. Once again, this commentary is about Lori Vallow. Now says she has an alibi. She also wants to talk to her husband. And this commentary is a day ago. Let me play this. Says she and her husband. Wow. Let's check that out.
Bluetooth connected.
This should be interesting. Lori Vallow claims she and her husband have an alibi for her kid's death. Wow. This should be real interesting.
Lori moved with the kids from Chandler to Rex. The case dates back to 2019. Lori Vallow is charged with conspiring to kill her 2 children, 17-year-old Tylee and 7-year-old JJ, along with her new husband's former wife, Tammy. Chad Daybell is also charged, the 2 being tried together. Both are pleading not guilty. The case made national headlines after family members reported the kids missing. Lori moved with the kids from Chandler to Rexburg, Idaho, where Chad lived. The 2 married just 2 weeks after Chad's wife died. Months later, authorities found Tylee and JJ's body on the property in shallow graves. New court filings now providing more insight. Criminal defense attorney Russ Richelsoff offering perspective.
In a criminal case, there's really no surprises. Each side is required to, basically, here's our evidence and here's what we're going to present at trial.
Investigators say Lori and Chad pushed doomsday religious beliefs. In new court documents, Lori's attorneys write she won't use mental health as a defense at trial. In a separate motion, Lori requests that she be able to meet with Chad in person and talk on the phone. Lori is also arguing she's not eligible for the death penalty.
And it sounds like her defense team is going to put forth.
Did you hear that? Let me play that again. This is crazy.
Also arguing she's not eligible for the death penalty.
And
be able to meet with Chad in person and talk on the phone. Lori is also arguing she's not eligible for the death penalty.
How are you not eligible for the death penalty? You have conspired to kill all these people. Your husband. You possibly may have conspired with him on his wife. I don't know. Were you all dating at the time when he was married? But your husband's gone. 2 of your children are gone. And you have the nerve to say that you are not eligible for the death penalty. Oh, Cookie, yes, you are. You and Chad and your brother, too, if he was still alive. And whoever else had knowledge. You sound crazy, ridiculous. That's why you know there's something wrong with her. Going into court with this bright-ass lipstick she had on a year or 2 ago, smiling and gaping and rocking and sitting in there with a girly-style hairdo like she's getting ready to go to the prom or the dance. She is really oblivious to what she has done. She really acts like she's crazy. If I didn't know any better, I'd almost say, maybe she don't know what she did, but I know better. Just this skinning and grinning and smirking, and you are on trial for your life. Now you want to talk to your husband. And by law, I guess they can let them talk. If they're being tried together, they need to try to come up with what they're going to say as a plea or how they're going to implement their defense, what they're going to say, who was where. But how are you going to not implicate your husband? You're going to say the children died in your brother's apartment, but yet you never filed a missing persons report. You never brought the children forward when the court mandated you to come to court and show the children. So that shows cause that you knew where your children were. So how are you going to be missing in action when your children are missing and murdered, but you never looked for your children, you never talked about your children, you ignored commentary from the news and family members, and yet the children were found on your new husband's property? Make us understand that. You just moved to Rexburg, newly married to this man, and your children are found dead a year later on his property. And when the children were missing, you acted like you did not care because you didn't care. So what is your defense going to be? How are you going to explain to 12 members of the jury why your children are found on your husband's property? Oops, and wait a minute, your eldest child dismembered. So how did she get cut up and put into the dirt? And the son is a few feet away from her body. So what are you going to say? My brother did all of this, and he took the kids out there and buried them on his property. We were out having dinner. We didn't know he was going to kill the kids. We didn't know that he went out there and dug up his property and buried the kids. But yet, your actions will show that you had to have known that the children were dead. Because one, you never looked for the children. You never talked about the children on the news or the radio. You never put out a reward for the children. So that shows that you did know. So whatever cockamamie story you're going to try to come up with, you and Chad, pertaining to the children, because I got a feeling you two are going to blame the brother. If you want to try to salvage your freedom and have some type of relationship with your husband, both of you incarcerated, that will be the plan. We had no knowledge that my brother killed the kids, was going to kill the kids. That's where I last left them. But yet the gist of the story is that the children were missing weeks apart from each other. So one was already dead while one was walking around. So Tylee was missing on the 8th, or after the 8th, nobody saw her. So where was she? Then the boy comes up missing the 22nd. Nobody hears from him. So how are you going to explain that logically? Each time one of your children went missing, it was your brother. But yet you never once appealed to the public to find your children. You just rode the ride, ignoring news cameras, interviews, mandated by the court to bring the children forward. You couldn't provide them because the children were dead. And now you want to try to bamboozle the court. And God forbid some gullible people that you have no knowledge of how your children got buried on your new husband's property. So I guess he's going to say the same thing. I didn't kill him and I didn't bury him. Her brother had to have done it. So let's just go there and say the brother killed the children and buried them on the property without either one of you all's knowledge. How's that possible? And what would the motive be? And now you have people testifying of the jokes he told on stage about killing your husband, sly, slick-ass jokes, inappropriate behavior between the two, you and your brother. You think that's not going to come out in the courtroom? All your erratic behavior before the last husband got murdered, all that's going to come out. Every lie you ever told is going to be told in that courtroom. Every version you spin is going to be debunked by the prosecutor or any witness who had no knowledge of your deviant plan to kill your husband and your children. You all are not going to be able to talk your way out of this. And I think that you think you're going to blame a dead person. It's not going to work.
And it sounds like her defense team is going to put forth who killed the children and even possibly the manner of their death.
In a notice of alibi, her attorneys write that Tylee and JJ died in her brother's apartment. That brother, Alex Cox, moved to Idaho for several months before his death.
It's easy and convenient to blame somebody who can't come to court and defend themselves.
Exactly.
Ted's attorney is also asking that trial be postponed a year, writing they won't have enough time once prosecutors turn over all the required information. Now, the attorney I spoke with says he would be surprised if the judge doesn't push back the start of the trial. That's expected to begin in April. The couple is due back in court in Idaho next week. In the meantime, you can get up to speed on this complex case in a new episode of the Lori Vallow podcast. You can download that wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Amy Cutler.
All right, everybody. AZ Family, Arizona News is the source of that information. I'm trying to find this information pertaining to the sister, the wife. I'm gonna have to type this in because I had just had it, the interview. I wanted to play that commentary of the last wife speaking to detectives. It's very interesting information. Yeah. You can go on the YouTube queue and get the said video by Law and Crime. I'm going to go ahead and share that on my channel. We'll play a little bit of that. You can watch the entire interview on Law and Crime Network verification. But let's get just a little bit of synopsis of what this woman had to say. What Alex Cox revealed days before he died and the unusual message he gave. East Idaho News is the source. Thank you for joining me. This is the vault you're listening to.
Remember that I was telling Jared was that when we were in Vegas, I don't know if you guys knew, but Alex was a massage therapist, and my back was bugging me, and after the trip there in the car, and he said, he's like, I'll just give you a massage and just fix your back. I'm like, okay. So, but for some strange reason, this is really weird. Like, for some strange reason, at the time, of course, I didn't think anything about it, but now I'm like, all freaked out about it. He said that we needed to find a Walmart because he wanted to buy this big, huge piece of plastic to put on the bed so the oil didn't get on the bed. But it was one of those ones that you put on the floor when you paint. Okay. And we went to Walmart and we got it and put it on the bed.
And this is when you were in Vegas?
When we were in Vegas, yeah, it was the day after we got there.
So you put it on the bed.
Yeah.
And he gave you the massage blade, and then what did
And
you
the
do?
weirdest thing about it was that, and this is where it gets even weirder, because after that, I fell asleep. Okay, so I was so relaxed after the massage, I was so relaxed, fell asleep, and then I remember waking up, I was in and out, like hearing him talking. And I was like, who's he talking to? And I get like trying to wake up, and finally I made myself wake up, and I'm like, Alex, I'm like, who are you talking to? He's like, nobody. I'm talking to myself. I'm like, okay. So then I remember to take a bath, and I said, let's watch a movie. And he was like, it was on his phone. I think playing a game or something. And he was like super quiet. It was totally eerie for Alex, because Alex usually he was like joking, and he would say something and he would find one way or another to make it into a joke and make it funny, and he was always making you laugh and laughing at himself or making a joke about something, but he said nothing for the rest of the evening. Nothing.
Well, that's really weird that he had you lay on plastic.
So maybe I'm just a little too crazy now because of all the stuff that's happened, but
Why did he have her lay on the plastic? Was it he didn't want to mess up the sheets? Didn't want to get oil on the sheets? Because usually people use oil, baby oil, to do massages. He didn't want to make the bed oily. Could that be it? Or he's just practicing to see how he's going to get a body on a plastic to wrap somebody up. I don't know. It's all strange. It is what it is. He's no longer here. And as they say, he can't defend himself against any allegations. But I do believe he helped Lori kill her husband. Also, I believe he killed her children. They all participated one way or the other. And now he's deceased and he can't stand trial. And I do believe Lori and Chad are going to put the full blame on the dead brother. But nobody's going to believe that because she never came forward to speak about her children when they were missing and people were asking about her kids. She lied to the school systems where the children were. That shows cause. She never brought the children forward to talk on the phones to relatives. She lied to her children, her other child, other relatives, brothers, family members. They killed those kids. She conspired, and that's just the end of the subject. So whatever she tries to pull in court this year, she and Chad, it won't even matter because your behavior after the fact shows you conspired and killed the kids. Because a decent person would rally about their kids, talk to the news, hand out flyers, posters, conduct search parties. None of that was done. You didn't get out there and search for your kid because you knew where your kids were. It's ridiculous.
My back of my mind, I keep thinking that who was on the phone was Chad and Lori, and that was supposed to be my last day, and he was in my suit.
And it very well could have been. When you woke up, did you feel normal? I mean, did you feel like, when you said you were in and out of consciousness, like you were trying to wake up or you didn't feel right?
Like I was really down, like I was really like one of those ones when you're like trying to wake up and you can't wake up kind of thing. Like I was thinking, why am I so relaxed when I can wake up kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Did you feel drugged?
Drunk, like I was kind of like really like drunk. It was like,
What kind of it?
So what happened? Did he drug this woman? What is the point of this interview? This is what I'm trying to figure out. What is the point and where is she taking this? Did this dead man drug her? Was he trying to kill her? What? Collect insurance? What? Where's this going? That's what I'm curious. I'm just playing all information related to these crazy ass people. They're just ridiculous. That's why, you really don't know what to believe nowadays. Even when people come forward to bring information, you always have to ask what they're saying. What is the purpose of what they're saying? Is there some truth, validity to what they're saying? Can it be validated what they're saying? What is the motive of what they're saying? Do they have any knowledge of crime and just trying to be relevant after the fact? You always have to ask these questions, not to be rude to the people or accusatory. It's just the world we live in now. A lot of people like attention. They want to be known for something. And sadly, a lot of people immerse themselves in crimes after the fact, even when they had knowledge of things going down during, before, and after. This woman is by the name of Zulema Pastines, married to Alex Cox. She's giving you information pertaining to him wanting to give her a massage when they were in Las Vegas. I'm going to further read this. It was Saturday, November 30th, 2019. In the middle of the day, Cox, a massage therapist, had never given Pastines a massage and said they needed to go to Walmart first to buy a large plastic drop cloth commonly used for painting projects. They purchased the item, returned to the room, and he spread the cloth over the bed. She remembers lying down quickly and falling asleep. It was really, really relaxed, like when you're trying to wake up and can't. I was thinking, why am I so relaxed? Can't wake up. I was in and out. I could hear him talking, and I was like, who is he talking to? Pastines said it sounded like Cox was chatting with somebody on the phone in the bathroom. When she was finally able to wake herself up, she asked her new husband who had been talking to. He said, nobody. I was talking to myself. She took a bath, then suggested to Cox that they watch a movie. He was doing something on his phone. He acted super quiet. Alex is usually joking and would find a way to turn things into a joke. He was always making you laugh, blah, blah, blah. He asked if I was okay. I'm just tired. The fact he was quiet and said nothing, that's so not Alex. Alex is not quiet. I don't know where she's going with this because the kids were already dead by November, I do believe. So I don't know where this is going. Let's see. Pastines explained the unusual events of that day to detectives from Rexburg Department and Fremont County Sheriff's Office who met with her for 2 hours this past April in Arizona. The interview, which you can watch in its entirety at the end of the story with videotape, part of several recordings, documents, videos, other files released Wednesday from the Chandler Police Department. I don't really know what's the point of this. Messages reveal romantic relationship between Chad and Lori before Tammy's death. So that means they probably were having an affair, Lori and Chad. This is all mentioned in this video. And at the bottom, it says Pastinas doesn't remember eating or drinking anything unusual that afternoon and said it was the only time Cox ever gave her a massage. Like I said, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have played this because I don't really know where this is going, but we'll play it anyway.
In the middle of the afternoon.
Did he give you anything to drink before that? Or make you a drink or fix you anything to eat?
$540 a month.
Sorry about that. She's pausing, which is strange. It's either yes or no. He gave you something to eat or he gave you something to drink. This is weird behavior here. I'm playing this because I thought it would have some relevance because I didn't finish listening to all of it. But she's pausing, which is very strange. Like she don't know what to say or she's lying. So which is it? We'll finish.
I remember us going to get some meat, and then we came back to the hotel, and I remember we did have some drinks with us. Like, you know, I don't know, maybe I might have had like a, no, I didn't have a Red Bull that day. I had something with me. Might have been a water or something, I don't know, with me.
She goes very quiet when asked did he give her anything. Like she's unsure, she can't remember. This is a very odd conversation because she's very boisterous up until the detective asks her, did he give you anything? Did you eat anything? And then she pauses like she can't remember. Usually people can remember what happened before falling asleep or passing out or being drugged. I was in the kitchen or I was reading a book or they walked over to me and gave me ice water, a soda pop. That's all I remember. Here she pauses. So this is strange to me. I'm wondering the validity of this information she's giving to the detectives. Let's finish this.
I always use the little cup, you know, I didn't like to use the little glasses. I always had my glasses, and whatever it was that I was drinking at the time.
So did he give you a massage? I mean, did you have oil on?
Not enough to
Or to drop off?
to what I dropped off, you know what I mean? It just didn't. At the time, I had no question about it. Now I'm like, why would you necessitate a whole drop cloth all over the bed to give me a massage? That just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Mm-hmm. So
and then the fact that he was quiet for the rest, that he said nothing, like nothing after that. He was quiet, and that's so not Alex. Alex is not quiet.
Oh, wow. Ooh,
so
Lordy.
Did you ever ask him, like, man, why did we need all that, or what?
No.
And so you heard him talking to somebody.
Mm-hmm. And I believed him when he was talking to himself, you know, at the time. You know what I mean? Trusting him completely.
So what is the point of this information to the police? What's she trying to say that she think he drugged her? She can't remember if she had something to drink. She said then she used to have a cup with her or carried a cup. I don't understand what she's saying because she started talking quieter, which is odd because you're speaking clear at first until he asked you, did you eat or drink anything? And then you pause like you're trying to think up something to say. I'm wondering if this woman is lying or she don't remember what is really going on. What is the purpose of this conversation? Did she think this man tried to poison her? So what do you think he was going to do? Poison you and then what? Wrap you up in the drop sheet and carry you out the hotel? Oh, Lord mercy. Well, did you ever find out if he had an insurance policy on you? Let's go there. How about that? And the fact that he got real quiet. Was he trying to poison her? Did he try to poison her? How about that? Maybe you should have went to the hospital and got yourself checked. Got your blood drawn. Got pieces of your hair cut out. If I was curious, I would have done that.
And that was right after you got married.
The day after.
She said this is the day after they got married.
It's really weird.
It is super weird.
So the guy is saying it's super weird, the detective.
And I even asked him, I said, hey, I said, are you okay? Like you're so quiet and usually not quiet like that. He's like, I'm just tired.
She said, you're too quiet. He says he was tired.
Okay, I'm gonna need your lunch.
Was he up to something with this woman? Did he marry her for nefarious reasons? Try to knock her off? I don't know. He's dead now. Dear God. Ooh, these people.
And it's little things like that we're super interested in. So if anything like that.
This is the reason why you need to try to understand the people that you're dating. Because as I said, a person can exhibit no signs that they're going to try to harm you, kill you. It won't be until the day they do it that you'll realize, okay, they no longer want me alive. By then it's too late. You've got to try to fight to survive. So we're going to ask the ultimate question. Did he poison her? Or was he just acting strange? What was the deal? He died in December of that year, so I don't know what's going on here. Maybe he was trying to hurt her, get insurance money. That's why I said she should have went to the doctor, got tested to see if she was given anything.
That comes to you again, something that you may think is super small, please let Garrett know or communicate it to you for sure.
That was weird.
This is April, I think, of 2021. If I'm looking at this date right on this bottom video.
Attention families with a loved one.
Only time this happened, she said yes.
Did he give you massages before?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he since then?
No.
So that was a one time.
April 29th, 2021. He was already dead.
When we were together, sometimes he would come and he would put his fingers on my neck and go. He would say, "What is it with you people? With you translated people that have such big strength?"
So one would wonder, why is she talking to the police this late in the game? He died in December of 19. The kids went missing in the fall of 19. This video at the bottom, if I'm reading it correctly, is April of 2021. So you're coming out of what? A year and a half talking to the police. Your husband's been dead since December 19. This video is April 21. So why talk to the police this late in the game about his behavior? Is it because you heard in 20, the summer of 20 is when they found the kids? Obviously, they started talking about Alex in conjunction to the murders because his dad on his phone is what led them to the bodies. So that's still almost a year later, you're talking to the police. It's strange. This is crazy to me. That's what I tell you about people.
Stressful shoulders or something like that. He would say that, but I wasn't the only one that was receiving it. He would do it to everybody else, just kind of relax, the neck. And then when we got back from Vegas and we were at my house, sometimes in the mornings I have a really hard time waking up, and then in the mornings I would turn my melon off and just sit there trying to get out. And I remember he would rub his finger up and down my back and go, "You can get up, you're doing that," kind of thing like that, waking me up, but not a massage like he did that day.
So when you woke up from that massage, did you feel like you were way too groggy than you should have been?
I was super, I thought, I'm like, oh my goodness, he's must be a really good, massage therapist, because I am so relaxed right now. I am so relaxed. I felt like when you get out of
I don't know what to say. I don't know.
The sauna, when you get out of the sauna, you're so relaxed, you can just take a nap.
So you didn't feel out of it?
No,
It was just relaxed.
very relaxed. Yeah, like super. What's really weird though was that in and out that I had when I was laying on the bed, because I could hear him talking and I was trying to wake up, but
Hello,
I
dear.
back down, and then if you're hearing him again talking, and I couldn't discern what he was saying, I could just hear him talking, and he was in the bathroom talking.
He kind of talks to himself much.
Well, not really. Not like that. Like, he was actually having a conversation. Like, he sounded like he was having a conversation.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, when I talk to myself, I'm always like, saying one thing or two things.
So did she go to the police later, thinking that maybe he was trying to hurt her, harm her, drug her, or conspiring with his sister on something? Because by this time, when they married, or, well, before he died, everybody was already dead. Chad's wife was dead. Her husband was dead. The children were dead. Nobody knew about where the children were, but you could use deduction. They were dead. So what was going on with this wife here? I'm curious. Did she get suspicious because she thought he was talking to someone in the bathroom, and then she later finds out he's implicated in the murders with these kids and husbands and wives and all these people? So she's figuring, oh, that was suspicious to me on that day after we got married. I'm groggy, this and that. He's in the bathroom talking to somebody, but he doesn't talk to himself. So that's why she went to the police to say his behavior was odd right after I married him. And I don't know if she's alluding to the fact that maybe he was still conspiring with his sister and her new husband, Chad Daybell. I can only assume that's where this was going.
Go to McDonald's for lunch.
Yeah, something like that. But no,
It's just Wendy's, you know,
he was having a conversation. So it, now of course, putting all this together and processing after, over a year, I keep thinking.
Over a year. Yeah, 4/29/21, this video.
There's no way that he was going to necessitate a big old drop cloth for that bed to give me a massage.
When you guys got married or prior to getting married, did you guys talk about insurance or life insurance, or did you add him to anything, or did he add you to anything?
Not that I know of. I know a couple people asked me that too. But I wasn't the one that I would have had any knowledge of that, but Lori would. Because Charles wasn't that business.
That makes no sense what she's saying. I wouldn't have had no knowledge. No, you wouldn't have had no knowledge if indeed he took out a policy without telling you he took it out. Mm-hmm. So maybe the drop cloth scared her after the fact. Why would he buy this cloth? And it could be just innocent. He bought a drop cloth, didn't want to mess up the bed where they were with oil and products. Or she did drink something, don't remember drinking it, and he put something in there hoping she would die. Interesting. But if you were with him and around his personal effects, I do believe she would have found a life insurance policy with her name on it. Because if you all were living together at the time of marriage and you went through his things, I doubt that would have been hidden. I believe you would have found a life insurance policy with your name on it and Alex as the beneficiary. So when she says his sister would know more about that, that would be one to think that he would give his sister the policy in case something happened to him. I don't know. So I don't know where she's going. The full interview is on Law and Crime. I'll possibly have to listen to the entire interview because I don't know what part of this interview that I just played is in the original recording. But this is information pertaining to Lori Vallow Daybell, who now says she has an alibi. And in the last video I played, she's saying that she and the husband have alibis. So who will be their alibis? Because I had heard mentioning of another woman, Miss Gibb, is mentioning this again, which I think is very strange because that woman already said that she didn't have her son and didn't appreciate her implicating that she had her son. And Lori does admit in that recorded call that, no, I know you didn't have my son, but I just said that because I didn't want nobody to know where he was. Lori, you didn't want anybody to know where he was because he was dead. How about that? You didn't want anybody to know that he was dead. You didn't want anybody to know that Tylee was dead. You conspired with your brother and new husband, to kill your kids. It has nothing to do with religion and the fourth coming, eighth coming, the 144,000 chosen ones or whatever that bullshit is. You just, like a lot of people, you're just evil. You met your match. You all conspired to knock off husbands and wives and children for your own selfish gain to be free. And many people want to be free from their relationships, courtships, and their children. I just advise you just make provisions and get on with the get on. You don't want to raise your children anymore, then you find somebody that can raise them. You don't want your spouse anymore, then you file for divorce. You don't want to be in a relationship anymore, you tell the person it's not working out, you want to move on. End of story. You don't murder people. And using the Bible, the Book of Mormon, Christianity, doomsday is bullshit. Nobody was coming for you. Jesus wasn't coming. Noah wasn't coming. Job wasn't coming. Nobody was coming. We've been on the earth thousands of years and we're still here. That should tell you something. The earth will end when God's ready for it to end and not before then. And he is not getting ready to choose a random person to tell what day he's coming. For what? For what reason? And all this talk of Ned and the husband had a being in him and he was the devil, just BS. Was she possibly schizophrenic, crazy, already crazy before Chad met her? Could be. And then when she met him, she fell all the way off because he was obviously crazy. He killed his wife. Then he meets this other dingbat. She kills her husband. So one could say they were already diabolical before they even crossed each other's paths. They both were sick. But that's what happens. Satan uses people. And he will put his like kinds together. That's his job. And that's what happened with Lori and Chad. And also her brother. Spinster's sister and brother. So you have to ask yourself, what type of family dynamic did they really have with their parents? And what type of parents do they really have? Because I didn't get a good feeling about her mother in the Netflix documentary. She's oblivious to her daughter's evilness because she's trying to separate the Lori she thought she knew versus the murdering Lori. She's your daughter, a product of you, ma'am. And she did kill her kids and husband. Bottom line. You either like it or you don't. I want to thank you all so much for following the content. Have a wonderful weekend. Please be safe. Check out my community board for the said recommendations for this weekend for movies and series to watch. Happy New Year once again. Please be safe. Like, share, and subscribe. Welcome all new viewers and subs. Thank you for the donations, super chats, and stickers during the live stream. Once again, if you'd like to donate to this great network, $BigAngie129 Cash App. Thank you for your time. You have been listening to The Vault.